Chapter 801. A sword condensed from spirit energy. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. With that, Lin Jiotong flew towards Yi Li at an extremely fast speed. In an instant, Lin Jiotong arrived in front of Yi Li. Swish. Lin Jiotong held the king-slaying sword and slashed at Yi Li. Unfortunately, how could Lin Jiotong hit Yi Li? Was there a need to explain Yi Li's speed? Clang. After dodging Lin Jiotong's sword, Yi Li quickly slashed out. Lin Jiao used the king-slaying sword to block, producing the sound of weapons colliding. It made the genetic warriors on both sides of the Mystic Lake's ears ring. I've said it before. Your king-slaying sword is just a pile of scrap metal, Yi Li said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, the king-slaying sword turned to dust. What? When the genetic warriors on both sides of the Mystic Lake saw this scene, they could not help but gasp. They had simply seen the most terrifying scene in the world. The king-slaying sword that shook the entire Mystic Land was broken just like that? They couldn't believe it. They really couldn't believe it. But so what even if he didn't believe it? The truth was right in front of him. At this moment, Lin Jiotong was petrified on the spot. He looked at the sword hilt in his hand in a daze, but the sword body was nowhere to be seen. The king-slaying sword is broken? Lin Jiotong's mouth was slightly agape. It was obvious that he could not believe what he was seeing. Demon King Yi Li, my king-slaying sword is broken. All of a sudden Lin Jiotong's eyes were filled with fury. He retreated hundreds of meters and shouted, I, Lin Jiotong, am the master of the sword Dao. Sword come. A long sword condensed from spirit energy appeared in Lin Jiotong's hand. Demon King Yi Li, one used 10 years of my lifespan to condense this sword for no other reason than to kill you on the Mystic Lake. Lin Jiotong said coldly to Yi Li. His old face was extremely cold. However, Yi Li smiled calmly. His face was still as calm as water. Lin Jiotong, I don't care how much of your lifespan has been consumed. In front of me, the Demon King Yi Li, you will only end up being suppressed. Lin Jiotong was really too angry. He didn't expect Yi Li to be so calm even though he had used 10 years of his lifespan to condense this sword. Demon King Yi Li, don't tell me you still think you can live. Lin Jiotong shouted at Yi Li. The genetic warriors on both sides of the Mystic Lake were terrified. They looked at the sword condensed from spiritual qi in Lin Jiotong's hand, simply terrified out of their wits. Come and die. Yi Li looked at Lin Jiotong playfully and hooked his finger at him again. Oh, you're courting death. Lin Jiotong shouted and stepped on the air, towards Yi Li. Clang clang clang. Although the sword in Lin Jiotong's hand was formed from spirit energy, the sound of weapons colliding could still be heard when it came into contact with the ancient dragon abyss sword. The only difference was that the sword wouldn't turn into dust. In midair, there were many ghostly shadows and countless sword shadows flickered. The genetic martial artists on both sides of the Mystic Lake swallowed their saliva. They looked at each other. Too terrifying, simply too terrifying. After dozens of moves, Yi Li and Lin Jiotong separated and were 100 meters apart. Demon King Yi Li, you will definitely die today. Lin Jiotong said coldly. Yi Li smiled faintly and thought that Lin Jiotong was too proud of himself. One strike. Yi Li said 2 words to Lin Jiotong. What do you mean? Lin Jiotong asked coldly. Chapter 802. Lin Jiotong died. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. The genetic warriors on both sides of the Mystic Lake also heard Yi Li's words. They did not know what Yi Li meant by one strike. They all looked at Yi Li wanting to hear what he would say. Yi Li nodded slightly and looked at the sun in the sky. He then said to Lin Jiotong, I only need one strike to kill you. What? When the genetic warriors on both sides of the Mystic Lake heard this, they all took 3 steps back, their eyes filled with shock. He said he could kill Lin Jiotong with only one strike? Although they all knew that Yi Li was very strong, even stronger than Lin Jiotong, killing Lin Jiotong with one strike was too much. Demon King Yi Li, you're really arrogant. I want to see how you can kill me with one strike. Lin Jiotong said coldly to Yi Li. Yi Li smiled and slowly said, since you don't believe me, I can only prove it to you. With that, Yi Li raised the ancient dragon abyss sword. Divine level skill, heavenly sword technique, divine level skill, heaven severing sword, and heavenly demon finger synthesized. At this moment, the ancient dragon abyss sword looked extremely terrifying. Lin Jiotong, I, Demon King Yi Li, will grant you death. Yi Li said slowly to Lin Jiotong. As soon as he finished speaking, the sword fell. Swish. This was an indescribable slash. When the genetic warriors on both sides of the Mystic Lake saw this sword, their bodies no longer just trembled. Their souls were submitting violently. There were even some who had already knelt on the ground. Boom. A shocking explosion occurred where Lin Jiotong was standing. The blinding light blinded everyone. When the dazzling light disappeared, the genetic warriors on both sides of the mystic lake hurriedly looked in Lin Jiotong's direction. What they saw shocked them. That was because Lin Jiotong was no longer in the air. Only the remaining piece of cloth slowly fell down. Was Lin Jiotong melted into nothingness? A genetic warrior said in shock. As soon as these words were spoken, the two shores of the mystic lake instantly exploded. Master is dead? Wang Hu's eyes were already red. The genetic warriors on both sides of the river looked at Yi Li, who was in midair, and realized that he was standing quietly in midair like an ancient demon god. Is this Demon King Yi Li's style? A young girl muttered to herself. Yi Li placed the ancient dragon abyss sword into the system space and glanced at the genetic warriors on both sides of the mystic lake. Everyone from the Wang family stay here today, Yi Li said calmly. When the Wang family heard this, their hearts sank as if their 3 souls and 7 spirits had been extracted. When the genetic warriors on both sides of the mystic lake heard this, they all looked at the Wang family in shock. They thought about Demon King Yi Li's reputation in the mystic land, which was known to everyone. How dare your Wang family offend Demon King Yi Li? Wasn't this courting death? For a moment, the genetic warriors looked at the Wang family with pity. Demon King Yi Li, you don't go too far. The Wang family's head, Wang Hu's voice was already trembling. How could he still have the leisure to care if Lin Jiotong was dead or not? When Yi Li heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and an evil smile appeared on his face. So what if I, Yi Li, have gone too far? Chapter 803, Preparations for Departure. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron Wang who glared at Yi Li, but there was nothing he could do. Yi Li, what exactly do you want? Yi Li was in midair. He looked down at Wang Hu and said calmly, I don't want anything. I just want everyone from the Wang family to die. As soon as these words were spoken, the genetic warriors on both sides of the mystic lake were shocked. The Wang family members collapsed to the ground in fright. They no longer had any strength in their bodies, and their souls were trembling involuntarily. Demon King Yi Li, let me tell you, before the Wang clan's patriarch Wang Hu could finish speaking, he would never be able to continue because a shocking bloody hole had appeared on his forehead at some point in time. The family head is dead? Everyone from the Wang family was terrified to the extreme. Oh! Countless screams sounded again. The Wang family fell to the ground one after another. Even until they died, they did not know how they died. However, Yi Li's handsome face remained unchanged. The genetic warriors on both sides of the mystic lake widened their eyes. They dared to swear that they would never forget what they had seen and heard today. Yi Li disappeared in midair. After that, Yi Li never entered Mystic City again. However, there were endless legends about him in Mystic City. In the center of Mystic City, a huge statue could be seen. This statue was the statue of Demon King Yi Li. The reason why Yi Li disappeared from the sky above the Mystic Lake was because the Apocalypse Legion had almost arrived at the Demon King Palace with the zombies. After arriving at the Demon King Mountain, Yi Li realized that countless zombies had appeared in front of him. The number of zombies was so huge that it could not be measured by numbers. After a few days and nights of synthesis, the level of the Apocalypse Legion had all increased to 7th tier Lord level zombies. Finally, the synthesis is complete. Yi Li let out a breath. Ding. Congratulations, host, for obtaining a chance to draw a random prize. At this moment, the system's voice appeared in Yi Li's mind. Yi Li used this chance without hesitation. The virtual pointer started to spin on the roulette wheel. A few seconds later, the pointer stopped. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a super treasure map. Hearing the system's voice, Yi Li showed a playful smile on his face. He thought that his luck was really unparalleled. Without thinking too much, Yi Li used the super treasure map. After using the super treasure map, the coordinates appeared in Yi Li's mind. However, this time the coordinates were no longer in the Mystic Land, but in the Eastern Land. The Eastern Land was the most powerful region in the Eastern Realm. It was vast, and ordinary people would find it difficult to even walk 1% of it in their entire lives. Moreover, the spiritual energy there was extremely dense. Yi Li thought that now that he had had the incomplete 9-li pot, according to the treasures on the super treasure map, the treasure should be the 9-li pot. It seemed, Yi Li remembered that Qingzhou and Qingrua were from the Eastern Land and seemed to be disciples of the Silver Blizzard Palace. However, they had offended the Grand Elder and were chased all the way to the Mystic Land. Since that was the case, Yi Li wanted to bring them back and avenge them. After all, they were his disciples. However, he had to make some preparations before going. Yi thought that the strength of the Apocalypse Legion was still not high enough. 2 months later, Yi walked around the Mystic Land and synthesized all the zombies there. The Apocalypse Legion had finally all become 9th tier Lord level zombies. As for the Dark Race members of the Mystic Land, they either submitted or ran. The Demon King Palace had become an unprecedented supreme sect in the Mystic Land. Chapter 804. Someone came from Silver Blizzard Palace. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Ding. Congratulations to the host for becoming a 10th tier chosen one. The system's voice sounded in Yi Li's mind. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a chance to upgrade your skill. A chance to level up his skills? Yi Li smiled and upgraded the Heavenly Demon Finger without hesitation. The Heavenly Demon Finger had become a divine level skill. Above the 10th tier chosen ones were sky openers. Yi Li had yet to meet a sky opener, but he could imagine that a sky opener must be very strong. The Apocalypse Legion was now all Earth Lord level zombies. Above Earth Lord level zombies, it was Heavenly Lord level zombies. Demon King Palace. Yi Li called Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo over. He had already asked Leng Shui to guard the Demon King Palace. Master, why are you looking for us? Sister and I still have to cultivate. Qing Ruo looked at Yi Li in confusion and asked. Qing Zhu was now a 7th tier transcender, while Qing Ruo was a 6th tier transcender. Qing Zhu, Qing Ruo, do you want to return to the Eastern Land? Yi Li looked at Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were stunned for a moment before they nodded. Master, we naturally want to go back, but we offended the Grand Elder and our family cut ties with us. Before Qing Ruo could finish, Yi Li interrupted her. Then let's set off now, Yi Li said. Now. The two girls were stunned. It was obvious that they did not expect Yi Li to say such a thing. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo came back to their senses a few seconds later and nodded firmly at Yi Li. At this moment, a disciple of the Demon King Palace ran in with a flustered expression. Lord Demon King, a group of genetic warriors came down the mountain. They said that they were from the Eastern Land. Yi Li smiled and thought that he still came to find her. Let's go, Yi Li said to the two girls. Then Yi Li and the two girls headed down the Demon King Mountain. After arriving at the foot of the Demon King Mountain, more than 10 transcenders appeared in front of Yi Li. These transcenders were all at least 8th tier transcenders, and their leader was a tier 1 chosen one. Qing Zhu, Qing Ruo, you are indeed hiding here. The tier 1 chosen one smiled coldly at Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. Han Qi. Qing Zhu glared at Han Qi. Han Qi was an outer sect elder of the Silver Blizzard Palace. He was the one who led the team to chase after Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. Qing Zhu, Qing Ruo, we've been looking for you for so long. We finally found you. After saying that, Han Qi turned to the two girls and said, So, are you going to surrender or be captured by us? Ants? Yi Li sighed slightly. His voice was not loud, but the dozen or so genetic warriors from the Silver Blizzard Palace could hear him. Brat, what did you just say? Han Qi stared at Yi Li. Yi Li slowly shook his head. I say, you bunch of ants, you don't even know that you're about to die. What did you say? Han Qi said firmly. Qing Zhu snorted and said, This is our master Yi Li. Yi Li? Han Qi's heart sank. He had naturally heard of Demon King Yi Li's reputation. You're the Demon King Yi Li? I heard that you are very capable, even capable of flying. Is that true? Han Qi looked at Yi Li and said. Of course, Yi Li did not want to care about these ants in front of him. He glanced at Han Qi and the others indifferently and slowly said, Tell me, how do you want to die? Chapter 805. How do you want to die? Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Han Qi and the other Silver Blizzard Palace members were all stunned. They didn't expect Yi Li to say such a thing. Demon King Yi Li, what do you mean? Han Qi stared at Yi Li. Although he had heard of Yi Li's reputation in the Mystic Land, the Mystic Land was still the Mystic Land after all. They were from the Eastern Land. Don't you understand? Then I'll say it again. How do you want to die? Yi Li's face was calm. When Han Qi and the dozen or so genetic warriors of the Silver Blizzard Palace heard this, they were furious to the extreme and glared at Yi Li. Demon King Yi Li, I'd like to see how you're going to kill us. Han Qi shouted coldly. Yi Li smiled faintly and slowly said to Han Qi, Do you believe that I can let you see their corpses in a second? As soon as these words were spoken, Han Qi and the others were shocked again. They really did not expect Demon King Yi Li to be so arrogant to this extent. However, Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo knew that Yi Li was not being arrogant. They knew how terrifying Yi Li was. Demon King Yi Li, come then. As he spoke, A mocking expression appeared on Han Chi's face because he felt that Yi Li's words were too funny. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, dozens of wind-breaking sounds rang. Before Han Chi could react, he took a closer look and was scared out of his wits. Han Chi widened his eyes at the scene in front of him. The dozen or so genetic warriors behind him had already fallen to the ground, dying with grievances. How is this possible? Han Chi finally finished his sentence. His face was filled with extreme fear. Yi Li looked at Han Chi indifferently and said slowly, I said that I would let you see their corpses in 1 second. Do you believe me now? Han Chi swallowed his saliva and was extremely shocked. Although he had heard that Demon King Yi Li's strength was terrifying to the extreme, he did not believe it. He thought that a small mystic land could have any terrifying genetic warriors. But now he realized that not only was he wrong, he was terribly wrong. Demon King Yi Li, how dare you kill someone from the Silver Blizzard Palace? Han Chi knew that he couldn't run away, so he could only try to use the fame of Silver Blizzard Palace to make Yi Li retreat. Unfortunately, he made a mistake. Yi Li was never afraid of anyone's threats. I'll ask you one more time. Are you ready to die? Yi Li looked at Han Chi. Han Chi was stunned. He didn't expect the mention of Silver Blizzard Palace to be unable to even make Yi Li's expression change. Demon King Yi Li, how could Han Chi still be able to say a complete sentence? He looked at Yi Li in horror. Alf? Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream sounded. The scream came from Han Chi. His body had already been pierced through. It was a shocking sight. You could have chosen how to die, but you didn't. Yi Li looked at Han Chi's corpse and said slowly. Qing Zhu looked at Han Chi's corpse and could not help but snort. Humph, you deserve it. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were chased miserably by Han Chi from the Eastern Land all the way to the Mystic Land. Let's go, Yi Li said to Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. The two girls nodded, and the group headed towards the Eastern Land. Chapter 806. Now tell me how powerful you are. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M Eastern Land. The largest area in the Eastern Realm. Ordinary people would not be able to complete it even if they spent their entire lives. Yi Li, Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo had already arrived at a city in the Eastern Land. This city was called Black Iron City. Black Iron City was a little smaller than Mystic City. There were many people on the streets, and there were as many genetic warriors as there were hairs on a cow. The beautiful appearance of the three of them shocked the pedestrians in Black Iron City. What Yi Li didn't expect was that even though the tree wanted to be quiet, the wind wouldn't stop blowing. A well-dressed young man stood in front of them. This young man was a Tier 1 Transcender, and behind him were 3 5th-tier Transcenders. You guys aren't from Black Iron City, right? The young man said to them. How do you know? Yi Li looked at the young man indifferently. The young man smiled. There's no one as handsome as you in Black Iron City. Of course, there's definitely no woman as good-looking as them. The young man's name was Su Nan, and he was the son of the city lord of Black Iron City. When the pedestrians on the street saw this, they stopped and looked. Who was Su Nan? That was the biggest playboy in Black Iron City. Without a doubt, there would be another good show. To be honest, I don't like your looks. Su Nan looked at Yi Li. Su Nan was the most handsome young man in Black Iron City, but he realized that compared to Yi Li, he could even be called ugly. Yi Li smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face as he said, Oh? So what? Su Nan looked at the smile on Yi Li's face and could not help but frown. Do you believe that I can send you to the prison of Black Iron City with just one sentence? The surrounding crowd shook their heads and sighed. They naturally knew what would happen to Yi Li, Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. After all, in a place like Black Iron City, Su Nan could do whatever he wanted. What the onlookers did not expect was that Yi Li would say such a thing. Yi Li looked at Su Nan indifferently and said, No. Hearing these two words, everyone was stunned for a moment before they understood. Yi Li still did not know what kind of existence Su Nan was in Black Iron City. You don't believe me because you still don't know how powerful I, Su Nan, am. Su Nan smiled coldly. After saying that, he ordered the 3 5th-tier Transcenders behind him, arrest them. Following Su Nan's order, 3 5th-tier Transcenders walked towards them. Yi Li shook his head slightly. Why were there always so many ants looking for trouble with him? Alt? 3 blood-curdling screams rang out, and the 3 5th-tier Transcender were sent flying. They landed heavily on the ground and fainted. The onlookers sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't even see clearly how Yi Li attacked. Su Nan was also stunned. He froze on the spot as if he had been petrified. Just as everyone was shocked, Yi Li spoke again. You said that I still don't know how powerful you are. Now tell me, how powerful are you? Yi Li looked at Su Nan indifferently and said. Su Nan stared at Yi Li. His 3 guards were all 5th-tier transcenders. He was a Tier 1 transcender, but he did not even see how the person in front of him attacked before they were sent flying. In other words, this person's strength was unfathomable. Don't be too arrogant. This is Black Iron City. Su Nan shouted at Yi Li. Chapter 807. Get on your knees. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron. Everyone looked at Yi Li and the other 2 and thought that Su Nan was right. This was Black Iron City. Even if you were covered in iron, how many nails could you stick to? Get on your knees. Yi Li looked at Su Nan. What? When everyone heard this, they were all shocked to the extreme. Get on his knees? He actually made the young city lord of Black Iron City kneel down? They quickly dug their ears because they felt that they had heard wrongly. What did you say? Su Nan stared at Yi Li. He did not expect Yi Li to say such a thing. Kneel down. Don't make me say it a 3rd time, Yi Li said slowly to Su Nan. You're courting death. Su Nan could not help but roar angrily. Swoosh. Suddenly, a wind-breaking sound was heard. Su Nan, the young master of Black Iron City, screamed and immediately knelt in front of Yi Li. Su Nan did not want to kneel, but there was already a shocking bloody hole on his right leg. It hurts. It hurts. Su Nan shouted loudly. At this moment, the pain was so intense that it was simply unprecedented. The onlookers looked at each other. This was Black Iron City. Wasn't this person afraid? At this moment, someone had already gone to the City Lord Mansion to report. He believed that it would not be long before the guards of the City Lord Mansion arrived. You wait. Su Nan endured the pain and said fiercely to Yi Li. Yi Li smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face. He slowly said, You want me, Yi Li, to wait? As soon as he finished speaking, another wind-breaking sound appeared. Another shocking bloody hole appeared on Su Nan's other leg. Ah! Su Nan let out a blood-curdling scream that sounded like a pig being slaughtered. The tragic scream was really shocking. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo looked at Yi Li's back. For some reason, their hearts started to beat wildly because they felt really safe with Yi Li. Make way! Make way! Suddenly, a loud shout entered everyone's ears. The onlookers quickly looked in the direction of the voice and saw dozens of guards from the City Lord Mansion running over. These guards were all 8th-tier transcenders, and the captain was a 10th-tier transcender. As long as he advanced further, he would become a chosen one. The dozens of genetic warriors from the City Lord's mansion came to Su Nan's side and looked at Su Nan in shock. They did not expect that someone would dare to attack Su Nan in a place like Black Iron City. Young City Lord, who did it? The guard captain quickly asked. It's him. Su Nan gritted his teeth and glared at Yi Li. Dozens of genetic warriors looked at Yi Li in unison, their faces filled with anger. Brat, did you eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall? The guard captain roared at Yi Li. Yi Li's face was as calm as water, as if he didn't hear anything. What are you going to do? Yi Li looked at the dozens of guards from the City Lord Mansion. What? The captain smiled coldly. He felt that Yi Li's words were too funny. He continued, You heard our young City Lord. Why are you asking us now? There was still no change in Yi Li's expression as he slowly said, So you're here to kill me? The onlookers looked at Yi Li in shock. They did not understand why Yi Li was not afraid. Was he not afraid of death? Chapter 808. The Power of One Finger. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. The guard captain sneered. Brat, one didn't expect you not to be stupid. Hee hee. Yi Li smiled leisurely. The guards team of the City Lord Mansion were all stunned. They did not understand why Yi Li could still smile. What are you laughing at? The captain stared at Yi Li. Yi Li looked at the captain indifferently. Do you really think you can kill me, Yi Li? The onlookers were shocked. There was no doubt that the guards of the City Lord Mansion were very strong. Now that Yi Li was surrounded by dozens of people, could it be that he still wanted to escape? Brat, do you think we can't kill you? The captain stared at Yi Li and said coldly. Yi Li shook his head slightly. With your group of transcenders and a Tier 1 chosen one like you? As soon as these words were spoken, the guards were shocked. What an arrogant brat. Hand over your life. As soon as the guard captain finished speaking, he stretched out a big hand and attacked Yi Li. Yi Li secretly smiled. He didn't understand why these people were so stupid. Die. Yi Li said these 2 words softly. The captain's body froze. He widened his eyes and looked at Yi Li. He used the last bit of strength in his body to say, You. Then the guard captain fell as his life disappeared from this world forever. How was that possible? The guards team of the City Lord's mansion gasped and looked at Yi Li in horror. As for the onlookers, they were already scared out of wits. Ants? Yi Li also shook his head. Dozens of guard teams looked at Yi Li in shock. You actually dared to kill our captain. An 8th-tier transcender stared at Yi Li and said. Yi Li smiled and glanced indifferently at the dozens of guards in front of him. Is it strange? Aren't you going to be killed by me too? When the dozens of guards from the City Lord's mansion heard this, they were all scared out of their wits. But before they could say anything, Yi Li had already raised a finger. With my finger, one can kill everyone in the world. As soon as he finished speaking, his finger fell. The power of the divine-level skill, Heavenly Demon Finger, could be imagined. Alt. In an instant, dozens of genetic warriors in the City Lord mansion died. The onlookers were all so frightened that they trembled. A chill rushed from their tailbones to the top of their heads. Everyone swallowed their saliva and looked at Yi Li with utter fright. This was a true demon lord. Let's go. Yi Li looked at Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were stunned and looked at Yi Li. It was obvious that they did not understand where Yi Li was going. Master, where are we going? Qing Ruo asked Yi Li. The City Lord mansion. Yi Li revealed his side profile and spoke slowly. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were stunned again. They wondered if their master was preparing. They all thought of a shocking possibility, which was that Yi Li was going to destroy the City Lord mansion of Black Iron City. Master, are you going to destroy the City Lord mansion? Qing Zhu asked. Yi Li stopped in his tracks when he heard this. He turned around and looked at the two girls calmly. Correct. With that, Yi Li continued to walk forward. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo looked at each other and immediately followed. City Lord mansion. The sound of a cup being smashed filled the entire City Lord mansion. What? City Lord Su Shan flew into a rage. Chapter 809. Destroy the City Lord mansion. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. The City Lord of Black Iron City, Su Shan, was so angry that his eyes turned red. The entire guard team was wiped out? Su Shan stared at a rank 3 evolved being in the hall and shouted. Yes, City Lord. I don't know where that person came from, but he's terrifying. The rank 3 evolved being lowered his head and replied. At this moment, Su Shan's face was terrifyingly cold. How's the young master? Young master is in the hospital. He should be fine. The genetic warriors in the hall were also stunned. What kind of existence could wipe out the entire guard team? City Lord. At this moment, another evolved being ran in with a shocked expression. What's wrong? City Lord Su Shan hurriedly asked. City Lord, there is a man and 2 women outside. They said that they want to destroy our City Lord residence. What? All the genetic warriors in the hall were shocked. Really? A Tier 2 chosen one asked. That's right. He looks quite confident. City Lord Su Shan gritted his teeth. His expression was frighteningly cold. Everyone, follow me out to take a look. Then, City Lord Su Shan led a group of genetic warriors out of the City Lord mansion. Not long after, they arrived outside the City Lord mansion and stared at Yi Li, Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. Are you the ones who want to destroy us? Yu Shan asked coldly. Yi Li smiled. That's right. If I'm not wrong, you killed the City Lord's guard team, right? Yes, it is. Yi Li nodded. City Lord Su Shan and the genetic warriors' expressions turned cold. There's a path to heaven, but you don't take it. There is no gate to hell, but you force your way in. Su Shan stared at Yi Li and said. Yi Li smiled calmly. He felt that this Su Shan was too interesting. Why are you still hesitating? Yi Li said calmly. Su Shan and the genetic warriors did not understand what Yi Li meant. Brat, what do you mean? City Lord Su Shan shouted with a cold expression. Yi Li smiled leisurely and said calmly to City Lord Su Shan, Don't you understand? I'm asking you to come and die. As soon as these words were spoken, Su Shan and the genetic warriors were furious. You're seeking death. A Tier 2 chosen one shouted angrily and attacked Yi Li. Yi Li secretly smiled and thought that it was another stupid fly. Swish. With a wind-breaking sound, this Tier 2 chosen one instantly died. What? City Lord Su Shan and the genetic warriors were dumbfounded. They had never expected such a situation. Are you guys very shocked? Yi Li looked at Su Shan and the genetic warriors. Could Su Shan and the genetic warriors only be shocked? They were simply shocked to the extreme. Before they could say anything, they heard Yi Li say, Actually, there's no need for you to be shocked because you're about to die. The dead won't be shocked. When Su Shan and the genetic warriors heard this, their pupils could not help but constrict. However, Yi Li had already raised his finger and released the god-level skill, Heavenly Demon Finger. Lo, could such an attack be described with words? Lo, could City Lord Su Shan and the genetic warriors dodge such an attack? At the last moment of their lives they shouted, finished. Then they all died. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo exchanged glances. They no longer knew how terrifying their master was. Was such a person really real? Chapter 8:10. If you cut the grass, remember to remove the roots. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. The news spread with the wind, and it didn't take long for the entire Black Iron City to know. In an instant, Black Iron City was in an uproar. Black Iron City, Shingon Hospital. The City Lord Mansion has been destroyed? A young man's slightly handsome face was filled with extreme fear. The young man was none other than the young City Lord of Black Iron City, Su Nan. What should I do? What should one do? Su Nan's voice trembled violently. He felt extremely regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would not have provoked Yi Li even if he was given 100 guts. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. You don't have to be afraid. Suddenly, a voice entered Su Nan's ears. The City Lord Mansion has been destroyed and my father is dead. How can one not? Before Su Nan could finish his sentence, his pupils constricted rapidly. A man appeared in the ward. You. Su Nan looked at the person in front of him, so frightened that his soul almost left his body. Why are you afraid again? Yi Li looked at Su Nan and asked calmly. How could Su Nan still be able to say a complete sentence? His slightly handsome face was as afraid as it could be. Yi Li looked at the frightened expression on Su Nan's face and said calmly, I think you should know that the dead are never afraid. When Su Nan heard this, tears instantly flowed down his face. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. As the saying went, men didn't cry easily, only because he had yet to reach the depth of his sorrow. Anyone could tell that Su Nan's desire to live was extremely strong. Don't kill you? The corners of Yi Li's lips curled up slightly, and a cold smile appeared on his handsome face. If I, Yi Li, am just an ordinary person, will you let me off when one offend you? Will you give me a chance to live? As soon as he finished speaking, a shocking bloody hole appeared on Su Nan's forehead. Isn't this a little too cruel? Outside the ward, Qing Ruo muttered softly. Just as Qing Zhu was about to speak, Yi Li pushed open the door and said, I'm not being cruel. Today I'll teach you a principle. If you cut the grass, remember to remove the roots. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were stunned. If you cut the grass, remember to remove the roots? Yi Li, Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo stayed in Black Iron City for a few days. Everyone was extremely scared when they saw them. On this day the clouds did not move and the wind did not blow. Dark clouds suddenly covered the sky above Black Iron City. Yi Li and the rest were living in the City Lord Mansion when an old man suddenly appeared in front of Yi Li. This old man was around 70 years old. He was dressed in tattered clothes, had black and white hair, and looked so sickly as if he only had a few days left to live. Grandpa, what's wrong with you? Qing Ruo said anxiously. Little girl, I have a worry in my heart. The old man pretended to be mysterious. A worry in my heart? Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were stunned. Yi Li was amused. He thought that this old man was interesting. A worry in his heart? Wait. He suddenly realized that this old man did not have the aura of a human. Could it be demons? Yi Li knew that there were demons in the Eastern Land. As the saying goes, don't judge a book by its cover. Old man, what do you want? Yi Li looked at the old man calmly. The old man smiled slowly. Demon King Yi Li, of course I'm here for you. For me? Yi Li didn't understand. Why did you come for me? Chapter 8:11. Qing Family Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron and the old man smiled at Yi Li. Young master, the demons of the Eastern Land voted unanimously to let you be our young master. We have been paying attention to you for a long time. The old man smiled at Yi Li. Yi Li was stunned. He had just arrived in the Eastern Land not long ago and he had already obtained the identity of the young master of the demon race? Who could he reason with? Young master, you must be our young master. The old man said to Yi Li. Yi Li rolled his eyes at the old man, thinking that this old man was too interesting. Come on, whoever wants to be the young master can go ahead. I'm not interested. Yi Li curled his lips and said. To Yi Li's surprise, the old man immediately hugged his leg. Young master, you have to agree. The young master of the Eastern Land's demon race has such a high status. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were stunned. The expressions on their faces froze as if they had been petrified. I don't want to agree, Yili said. However, the old man did not give up. He looked like he would bang his head against the wall and die if he did not agree. Young Master 111, take your reaction as a yes. And going back to the demons to report now. After saying that, the old man ran away like a wisp of smoke. His speed reached the fastest speed in history. Yili was dumbfounded. Well, Yili shook his head, speechless. Master, why didn't you agree? Qing Rua looked at Yili in confusion. Yili smiled. If one agree, there will definitely be a lot of trouble. It's better not to agree. All right, let's go to your clan. Yili looked at Qing Zhu and Qing Rua. Qing Zhu and Qing Rua's expressions turned sad when they heard this. Our family has already severed ties with us, Qing Zhu said faintly. Yili smiled faintly and looked at the sun in the sky. He slowly said, that's why we have to get back at them. Qing Zhu and Qing Rua were stunned when they heard this. Yili's words moved them. Yeah. The two girls nodded heavily. Then Yili, Qing Zhu and Qing Rua headed towards the Qing family. The Qing family was naturally not in Black Iron City. The overall strength of the clan was considered average in the Eastern Land. Naturally, it could not be compared to the supreme forces like the Silver Blizzard Palace. Qingyun City. The Qing family was the largest family in Qingyun City. Yili and his group arrived at Qingyun City. Aren't these the two sisters from the Qing family? How dare they come back? Isn't this courting death? The pedestrians in Qingyun City were all shocked. They could not believe that Qing Zhu and Qing Rua would dare to return. Master, are we going to the Qing family now? Qing Rua looked at Yili. Yili nodded and did not speak. Not long after, they arrived outside the Qing family. Qing Zhu, Qing Rua. The genetic warriors outside the Qing family were shocked beyond words. They had never expected to see Qing Zhu and Qing Rua again. Qing Zhu glanced at Yili, then stared at the Qing family disciples in front of him and said coldly, go tell the people inside that we're back. These disciples of the Qing family didn't dare to be negligent when they heard this. They all ran inside one after another. Not long after, a group of people rushed out of the Qing family. Qing Zhu, Qing Rua, we've already severed all ties with you. Why are you back? A woman of similar age to Qing Zhu and Qing Rua spoke coldly. Qing Rua and Qing Rua didn't know how to answer. They could only look at Yili. They came back so that your Qing family can apologize to them. Yili said lightly. Chapter 8:12. Do you know what it's like to be disfigured? Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. The woman and the dozen or so genetic warriors of the Qing family were all stunned. They didn't expect Yili to say such a thing. Who are you? The woman stared at Yili with disdain. You don't have the right to know who 1 a.m., Yili said slowly. What did you say? The woman and the dozen or so genetic warriors of the Qing family were all stunned. The woman's name was Qing Ling and she was a genius of the Qing family. She had always been jealous of Qing Zhu and Qing Rua. Now that Qing Zhu and Qing Rua had offended the Silver Blizzard Palace, she was naturally happy. Just go in and report. Yili didn't want to continue talking nonsense with Qing Ling. Qing Ling frowned and stared at Yili. Where do you think this is? To tell you the truth, you came at the right time. They'll capture you and offer you to the Silver Blizzard Palace. Qing Ling sneered. Yili sighed to himself. Why was it that no one was willing to listen to him? Catch them? Following Qing Ling's order, more than 10 genetic warriors of the Qing family rushed towards them. Swish, swish, swish. With several wind-breaking sounds, more than 10 genetic warriors were sent flying. After landing heavily on the ground, they all fainted. What? Qing Ling was stunned. She would never have thought that things would turn out like this. At this moment, how could Qing Ling be able to speak a complete sentence? Do you know what it feels like to be disfigured? Yili suddenly asked Qing Ling. Qing Ling's entire body shook as she looked at Yili in shock. Yili smiled. Looks like you don't know. Since that's the case, 111 let you know. As soon as she finished speaking, a shocking bloody mark appeared on Qing Ling's face. My face. My face. Qing Ling cried out loudly. Her cry made one's scalp go numb. Yili was such a person. He never needed a reason to do things. Qing Zhu and Qing Rua looked at each other in dismay. Qing Ling's cry spread far and wide. Then, another batch of genetic warriors from the Qing family ran out. What happened? An elder asked in shock. This elder was a Tier 3 chosen one. It's him, it's him. Qing Ling cried and pointed at Yili. The old man looked in the direction of Qing Ling's hand. It didn't matter if he didn't look, but he was stunned when he saw it. Qing Zhu, Qing Rua? The old man was the fifth elder of the Qing family. He was considered a high-ranking figure in the Qing family. How dare you come back after offending the Silver Blizzard Palace? Fifth elder glared at Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo as he shouted angrily. That's right. Our Qing family has already severed ties with you. Why are you still coming back? The Qing family disciples behind the fifth elder also echoed. Was this human nature? Yili smiled calmly and looked at the fifth elder calmly. Ants, call out everyone from your Qing family and apologize to Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. What? The fifth elder and the disciples of the Qing family were all shocked. They felt that they had misheard. When the fifth elder saw Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo just now, he did not react in time. Only then did he remember that Qing Ling was referring to Yi Li. Brat, do you know what you're talking about? The fifth elder looked at Yi Li mockingly. He had never seen someone as arrogant as Yi Li. Yi Li smiled. They'll say it again. Go and get everyone from the Qing family to apologize to Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. Don't make me say it a third time. Arrogant brat. The fifth elder was furious and reached out a big hand towards Yi Li. Chapter 8:13. Looks like I need to kill a few people. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron looking at the incoming big hand, Yi Li's face revealed a faint smile. Swish. A sword aura suddenly appeared, and the fifth elder's hand was instantly broken. Or? The fifth elder screamed like a pig being slaughtered. How is that possible? The disciples of the Qing family were all terrified. They didn't even see how Yi Li attacked. Can you call out the Qing family people now? Yi Li glanced at the disciples of the Qing family indifferently. The disciples of the Qing family did not dare to stay any longer. They all ran in like a swarm of bees. Not long after, the head of the Qing family came out with everyone from the Qing family. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo's parents had long passed away. It could be said that they did not have any real relatives in the Qing family. Moreover, the Qing family had many collateral members and was very complicated. The head of the Qing family, Qing Ming, stared at Yi Li and said coldly, "You want everyone in the Qing family to apologize to Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo? Not bad." Yi Li nodded. Qing Ming suddenly sneered because he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Brat, what if one tell you that 1 am a fifth-tier chosen one? Qing Ming stared at Yi Li. In Qing Ming's opinion, after Yi Li found out that he was a fifth-tier chosen one, he would immediately be frightened out of his wits. However, he did not expect that Yi Li's face did not change at all. This caused the Qing family's patriarch Qing Ming to be slightly stunned. Yi Li was silent for a few seconds. Then, he nodded slightly and said to Qing Ming, "Since when did a fifth-tier chosen one dare to be arrogant in front of me, Yi Li?" When Qing Ming and the people from the Qing family heard this, they were all shocked to the extreme. Their eyes could not help but widen. Brat, do you know what will happen to you if you say this? Qing Ming stared at Yi Li. Yi Li smiled calmly and said slowly, "I'm not interested in knowing what will happen to me. One just want you to apologize to Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo." Hearing this, everyone from the Qing family was furious. This person in front of them was surrounded by so many of them. How could he still be so arrogant? Could it be that he was really not afraid of death? Apologize. Qing Ming smiled. He felt that Yi Li was too funny. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo have offended the Grand Elder of the Silver Blizzard Palace. Since they have returned, my Qing family will offer them to the Silver Blizzard Palace. Perhaps our Qing family will regain the opportunity to become disciples of the Wind and Snow Silver Palace. As Qing Ming spoke, a smug smile appeared on his face. Looks like I have to kill a few people to make you apologize. Yi Li shook his head and said, Brat, what did you say? When Qing Ming heard Yi Li's words, he could not help but be furious. Yi Li didn't answer. Instead, he raised his index finger. However, a terrifying white spiritual energy began to wrap around his index finger. Qing Ming and the Qing family looked at the white spiritual energy on Yi Li's index finger and were all shocked. White spiritual energy. This was a color that only Fleven-defying level genetic warrior's spiritual energy had. Swish. Before Qing Ming and the people from the Qing family could react, the lives of dozens of Qing family's disciples had disappeared from this world forever. What? The Qing family's head, Qing Ming, and the remaining members of the Qing family were all terrified. You. Qing Ming looked at Yi Li in shock. When Yi Li launched that attack just now, he felt as if he had entered a reincarnation cycle. It was too terrifying. Chapter 8:14. The old man reappeared. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron. There was no change in Yi Li's handsome face. He looked calmly at the Qing family's head. Do you want to disappear from this world forever like them? When the head of the Qing family, Qing Ming, heard this, he was so frightened that he was scared out of wits. Apologize, apologize. Qing Ming was almost roaring. Immediately, everyone from the Qing family said to Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo in unison, I'm sorry. Yili looked at Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo and said slowly, Are you satisfied? Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo nodded in gratitude. By the way, you guys probably don't know my name, right? My name is Yili. You guys can call me Demon King Yili. Yili glanced at the people from the Qing family and said. The Qing family had naturally never heard of the name Demon King Yili. Let's go, Yili said. Then Yili, Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo left the Qing residence. The head of the Qing family, Qing Ming, clenched his fists tightly. His nails dug into his skin, but he did not feel any pain. Demon King Yili, just you wait. The Qing family was the strongest clan in Qingyun City. They had never been humiliated like this before. Go to the Silver Blizzard Palace and tell the Grand Elder that Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo have returned to Green Cloud City. Qing Ming said to an elder. Yes. Yili, Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo arrived at a hotel. After a nap, it was already night when he woke up. Yili released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space. After obtaining the incomplete 9-Li pot at the Black Demon Mountain and destroying the Golden Sky Bull tribe, he obtained another super treasure map, which showed that the treasure was located in the Eastern Land. However, after arriving at the Eastern Land, the coordinates in his mind disappeared again, which made Yili very annoyed. Brother, you locked us in the system space for so long before you let us out. Have you forgotten about us? Yutong looked at Yili unhappily. Yili smiled and touched Yutong's head. How could that be? I'm just, ugh. Yili didn't know how to answer. Seeing Yili rendered speechless, the 9 Lord-level zombies of the Apocalypse Legion actually smiled. Can you believe it? Now, Yili was a 10th tier chosen one, and the Apocalypse Legion were all 9th tier Lord-level zombies. There was no need to mention how strong they were as a whole. If Yili merged with the Apocalypse Legion, one could imagine his strength. Young master, you're awake? Suddenly, a voice entered Yili's ears. Yili was stunned. He looked in the direction of the voice and realized that it was the old man again. What shocked Yili was that he didn't realize when this old man appeared here. This was the most terrifying place. Old man, what realm are you in? Yili looked at the old man. The old man chuckled. It's not very high. He's just a small Heavenly Lord level. Heavenly Lord level? If he was a human, he would be a sky opener. Wasn't that very high? Yili was amused. He thought that this old man was actually better at showing off than him. Young master, I've already gone back to report to the Demon Lord. Our Demon Lord wants to see you. After saying that, the old man suddenly thought of something and a smile appeared on his dirty face. Young master, actually, the Demon Lord wants to marry you. What? Yili was stunned. He had never seen this so-called Demon Lord before. As for how they knew about him, Yili had long understood. They probably started to pay attention to him when he came to the Northern Realm. Old man, your Demon Lord is a woman? Chapter 8:15. Cheongqi Royal Family Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. The old man nodded and chuckled. Young master, not only is our Demon Lord a woman, but she's also very beautiful. Yili was a little stunned. Not only did he become the young master of the Eastern Lands demon race, but he also had a fiancée? What kind of race are you from? Yili thought that there should be different races among the demons. The old man smiled when he heard that. He looked at the ceiling and said proudly, Cheongqi Royal Family. Cheongqi Royal Family? Yili was stunned. Shouldn't Cheongqi be one of the top 10 ferocious beasts in the immemorial era? It seemed that it was different in this world. The name of the Cheongqi Royal Family sounded a little domineering. Young master, let's go now, the old man said to Yili. Why should I go? Yili looked at the old man. The old man was stunned. You promised just now. Upon hearing this, Yili was also a bit stunned. Could this old man be ill? Cheongqi Royal Family? It felt like he was just a childlike old geezer. You can leave. Don't disturb me if there's nothing else. Yili waved his hand at the old man. But the old man was unwilling to get up and hugged Yili's thigh. Young master, if you don't go back with me, I'll hug your thigh for the rest of my life. Yili wanted to throw this old man away, but he realized that this old man was shockingly strong. After all, he was a Heavenly Lord-level demon. A moment later, Yili's handsome face was filled with helplessness. This was the first time he had felt so helpless since he transmigrated to this world. All right. Helpless Yili could only nod. After that, Yili asked the Apocalypse Legion to protect Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. Then he followed the old man towards the Cheongchi cave. Cheongchi cave. The Cheongchi race was the most powerful race in the Eastern Land and also the noblest bloodline in the Eastern Land. There were very few members of the Cheongchi royal family, only dozens of them. They had always ignored the disputes in the Eastern Land. Otherwise they would have long been the masters of the Eastern Land. Young master, this is our territory. The old man smiled at Yili. Yili sized up the Cheongchi cave. The scenery was beautiful and pleasant, but he was not interested at all because his fiancée was inside it. Go on in. Yili's face turned ashen. Most importantly, he could not defeat this old man. This world had always been about strength. Then Yili and the old man walked into the Cheongchi cave. After entering the Cheongchi cave, Yili saw a few demons in human form. Grandpa Cheong, you're back. A little girl looked at the old man and said. The old man nodded and asked the little girl, where's the demon lord? The demon lord went to the star observatory, the little girl replied. Yili smiled. Grandpa Cheong. This old man's surname was Poor? After all, he was from the royal family of Cheongchi. Old man, I still don't know your name? Yili said to the old man. The old man smiled as if he was very proud of his name. He said to Yili, young master, since you want to know my name, I'll tell you. My name is Cheong Fong. Bro? What kind of a name was this? Yili thought so in his heart, but he did not say it out loud. Grandpa Cheong, is he the young master? The little girl looked at Yili in confusion. That's right, he is our young master. Cheong Fong said. As soon as he said this, more than 20 clansmen of the Cheongchi royal family surrounded him and began to size up Yili. Li looked at the members of the Cheongchi king clan and realized that the weakest among them had the 10th tier lord level strength. Even this little girl was the 10th tier lord level. This was too terrifying. Chapter 8:16. Demon Lord Cheong Ling Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Cheong Fong said to Yili, young master, the demon lord has gone to the star observatory. Please go there to meet her. With that, Cheong Fong told Yili the way to go to the star observatory. Yili went to the star observatory with a dark face. He wanted to see what this demon lord looked like. She actually wanted to marry him. Moreover, it was broad daylight. Why did she go to the star observatory? How strange. Not long after, Yili arrived at the star observatory. A woman stood quietly on the star observatory looking at the sun. The woman looked to be around 20 years old. She wore a jade green flowery dress, and her black hair reached her shoulders. Just by looking at her back, one could tell that she was a peerless beauty. It was unknown how she looked from the front. Yili thought that this woman should be his fiancée, the so-called demon lord of the Cheongchi royal family. There you are. Suddenly, a voice that sounded like an oriole leaving the valley entered Yili's ears. That's right, I'm here. Yili smiled and said. The woman turned around. When he turned around, Yili was stunned. Her skin was smooth and her breath was fragrant. She was truly a beauty. The sun shone on the woman's face. She and the sun brightened a few degrees at the same time. It was unknown if the sun was illuminating her or if she was illuminating the sun. She was literally the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. My name is Cheong Ling, the demon lord of the Cheongchi royal family, the woman said to Yili. Cheong Ling was the most beautiful woman Yili had ever seen since he transmigrated to this world. Although he was shocked, he didn't show it. His handsome face still didn't change at all. I heard that you want to marry me? Yili looked at Cheong Ling. Grandpa Cheong asked me to do this. Cheong Ling said. Yili looked at Cheong Ling and realized that Cheong Ling was actually at the Tier 3 Heavenly Lord level. There was no way he could defeat her. Even if he fused with the Apocalypse Legion, it was still impossible for him to defeat a Tier 3 Heavenly Lord level expert. What if I don't want to marry you? Yili asked. It was as if Cheong Ling did not know how to smile. She was always so quiet that it was as if time had stopped flowing with her. I don't know. Anyway, Grandpa Cheong said that you would definitely marry me, Cheong Ling said. Yili was puzzled when he heard that. He wondered why that old man was so confident. Could it be that he could predict the future? Anyway, you don't like me and I don't like you either. How about you not marry me? Yili said to Cheong Ling. To Yili's surprise, Cheong Ling shook her head and said, Grandpa Cheong said love is like a snapping turtle spotting mung beans. I find you quite pleasing to the eye, so I guess we must be on the same page. When Yili heard Cheong Ling's words, he realized that not only was he wrong, but he was also wrong to the extreme. Cheong Ling was a Cheongchi. How could she know about love? The point is, I don't love you. Yili didn't want to get married. It didn't feel meaningful. Grandpa Cheong said that you would like me, Xiongling said. Yili became very helpless. He thought that there was no way out now. He couldn't beat them. What should he do? By the way, Grandpa Qiong said that when we first met, we should hold hands, Xiongling said to Yili. Yili was stunned. No, you're the demon lord of the Qiongqi royal family. Why is it that everything is ordered by your Grandpa Qiong? Don't you have any opinions? No. Qiongling shook her head. Oh my god. Yili was helpless. He was really helpless. Chapter 8:17. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were captured. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Yili looked at Zhang Ling. Although Zhang Ling was indeed very beautiful, Yili was not someone who liked beautiful women. What if I don't want to hold your hand? Yili thought that this Qiongqi royal family was too funny. Grandpa Qiong said that you don't have the ability to refuse. Qiongling looked at Yili seriously and said. Yili stared at Qiongling. Qiongling was at the Tier 3 Heavenly Lord level. It was absolutely impossible for him to defeat her. Alright, Yili nodded. Qiongling walked over and held Yili's hand. Yili felt the warmth of Qionglin's palm, but there was no change in his expression. That's enough, right? Yili looked at Qiongling. Qiongling nodded. That'll do. Yili pursed his lips. Since it's done, I'm leaving. With that, Yili left the place impatiently. Qiongling did not stop him. When Yili returned to Qingyun City, he realized that Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo had already been captured by the Silver Blizzard Palace. He could imagine that it must be the Qing family that reported about their whereabouts. Yili's expression turned cold. He suddenly realized that it was his mistake for not destroying the Qujianji family that day. Then he slowly walked towards the Qing family. Not long after, he arrived at the Qing family. A few disciples outside the Qing family looked at Yili. They were stunned at first, then their pupils constricted rapidly as they looked at Yili in horror. You. These Qing family disciples were already frightened out of their wits. How could they still be able to speak a complete sentence? You're all dead. Yili looked at the Qing family disciples in front of him indifferently. When the Qujianji family disciples heard this, there was only one thought in their minds, and that was to escape. Unfortunately, how could they escape from Yili's grasp? Alt? A few screams sounded, and the lives of these Qing family disciples disappeared from this world forever. The Qing family was Qujianji Zhu and Qujianji Ruo's clan. However, Yili had already made up his mind to destroy the Qujianji family, even if Qujianji Zhu and Qujianji Ruo were unwilling to let Yili do so. This was him. Demon King Yili. Yili slowly walked into the Qujianji family. As soon as they entered the Qujianji family, they were surrounded by hundreds of Qujianji family disciples. They all looked at Yili in shock. The scene outside the Qujianji family that day was still vivid in their minds. Demon King Yili, what are you trying to do? The head of the Qujianji family, Qujianji Ming, stared at Yili. However, Yili smiled coldly and slowly said, I don't want anything. I just want to destroy your Qujianji family. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the Qujianji family was shocked. They widened their eyes and looked at Yili. You asked the Silver Blizzard Palace to capture Qujianji Zhu and Qujianji Ruo, right? Yili looked at Jingming. The head of the Qujianji family, Qujianji Ming, gritted his teeth and said coldly, That's right. I reported about their whereabouts to the Silver Blizzard Palace. If you dare to attack my Qujianji family, the Silver Blizzard Palace will definitely make you regret it. When Yili heard this, he sneered again. In this world, there's no one that I, Yili, don't dare to kill. As soon as he finished speaking, the ancient dragon abyss sword appeared in Yili's hand. He raised the ancient dragon abyss sword high and slowly said, Heaven-severing sword. The divine-level technique, Heaven-severing sword, slashed out. Countless sword rays shot towards the Qujianji family members. Such a slash was truly too terrifying. Alt? In an instant, screams rang out incessantly in the Qujianji family's courtyard. Chapter 8:18. Invisibility Technique. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Qing Ming was the only one alive in the Qing family's courtyard. Qing Ming was about to cry. He would never have thought that it would be like this. Do you still think that I, Yili, don't dare to attack your Qing family? Yili stared at Qing Ming. Thump. With a thud, Qing Ming knelt in front of Yili and slapped himself hard. Lord Demon King, please let me off. Know my mistake. I really know my mistake. Qing Ming burst into tears. He only knew that he was definitely not Yili's match. It was useless to run for his life, so he could only ask Yili to let him off. Do you think I will let you go? Yili looked at Qing Ming. Qing Ming was shocked when he heard this. He prepared to run. However, even if Qing Ming had 10 legs, he would not be able to escape from Yili's 5 Fingers Mountain. Swish. With a wind-breaking sound, Qing Ming's life disappeared from this world forever. Yili looked at Qing Ming's corpse. His expression did not change at all. He had killed too many people. Killing a few people was nothing. He thought that since the Apocalypse Legion was not around, they must have gone to the Silver Blizzard Palace. Next, he should go to the Silver Blizzard Palace. Immediately after, he activated swift steps and flew towards Silver Blizzard Palace. The Silver Blizzard Palace was one of the supreme factions of the Eastern Land. Silver Blizzard Palace was located on Snow Wind Mountain. It was a majestic building complex. Snowflakes fell and it was dyed white by the snow everywhere. The mountains were inherently worry-free but turned white due to snow, and the waters were inherently worry-free but rippled due to the wind. Yili arrived at the foot of Snow Wind Mountain. What he didn't expect was that the Apocalypse Legion was also at the foot of Snow Wind Mountain. Master. When the 9 zombies of the Apocalypse Legion saw Yili, they hurriedly ran towards him. Master, Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo have been captured by the Silver Blizzard Palace. We can't go up, Hongya said to Yili. Yili was stunned. They couldn't go up? He activated his heavenly spirit eyes to investigate and discovered that the entire Snow Wind Mountain was surrounded by a huge array formation. Could it be? Yili pondered for a moment. Only people from the Silver Blizzard Palace could go up? The Silver Blizzard Palace was a supreme force in the Eastern Land. With the strength of him and the Apocalypse Legion, they were still no match for the Silver Blizzard Palace. What should he do? Yili couldn't help but ponder. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the opportunity to use the invisibility technique. Suddenly, the system's voice sounded in Yili's mind. Invisibility technique. After using it, the body will disappear and no one will be able to detect it. However, it's best not to use it on a powerhouse because they will react in an instant. Yili looked at the introduction of the invisibility skill and thought that there was always a way out. Wait for me here, Yili said to the Apocalypse Legion. After saying that, Yili used the invisibility technique. After using it, Yili's body could no longer be seen. System, can the invisibility technique break through the array formation on Snow Wind Mountain? Yili asked. Yes, host. The system replied in Yili's mind. Hearing the system's reply, Yili was relieved. Then Yili headed towards Snow Wind Mountain. Silver Blizzard Palace's main hall. Grand Elder Lung Rushuang smiled. How are Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo? They are still unconscious, a Silver Blizzard Palace disciple replied. A cold look appeared on Lung Rushuang's face. They overturned my Holy Spirit water. I will make them regret coming to this world. Sometimes death is not so easy. Chapter 8:19. Rescue Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. The Silver Blizzard Palace did not have a palace master. The Grand Elder was the highest authority. The Holy Spirit water was dripped from the Snow Wind Saint Stone. After 10 years, as long as one drank it, one's strength would rise to another level. However, the Holy Spirit water was indeed overturned by Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo. Take me to them. The more Grand Elder Lung Rushuang thought about it, the angrier she became. Then a disciple led Lung Rushuang to the torture chamber. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were tied up and unconscious. Lung Rushuang stared at Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo outside the torture chamber. Her old face was terrifyingly cold. Grand Elder, do we need to wake them up? A disciple asked Lung Rushuang. Lung Rushuang smiled coldly. No need. I want them to wake up on their own. Then I'll let them know what true fear is. Lung Rushuang looked at the Silver Blizzard Palace disciple in front of her. After a cat catches a mouse, it usually doesn't eat the mouse immediately. Instead, it plays the mouse to death before eating it. When the Silver Blizzard Palace disciple heard that, he could not help but reveal a sinister smile. Yili was right beside Lung Rushuang. He thought that this old witch was too vicious. Fortunately, she did not choose to attack Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo immediately. Otherwise, he really did not know what to do. Soon, Lung Rushuang and the disciple left the torture chamber. There were 2 disciples guarding outside the torture chamber. If Yili wanted to kill them without anyone noticing, it would be as easy as drinking water. After that, this disciple died forever. Even until his death, he didn't know why he died. Yili entered the torture chamber. Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were tied up by chains. Yili broke the chains and placed the 2 girls into the system space. Then he activated swift steps and left the Silver Blizzard Palace. When they arrived at the foot of Snow Wind Mountain, The Apocalypse Legion saw that Yi Li had returned and immediately went up to him. "Master, you're back." Yi Li nodded and did not say anything else. He placed the Apocalypse Legion into the system space and activated the swift steps again to leave this place. Yi Li did not choose to return to Qingyun City. Instead he went to the Cheongqi cave. When the members of the Cheongqi royal family saw that Yi Li had arrived, they all shouted at him. "Young master, you're back." Immediately after, Yi Li heard Cheong Feng's laughter. "Young master, didn't you want to leave the Cheongqi cave? Why are you back?" Yi Li rolled his eyes at Cheong Feng and took out Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo from the system space. "Young master, this is..." Cheong Feng looked at Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo with a puzzled expression on his dirty face. "I want them to stay here," Yi Li said to Cheong Feng. Yi Li originally thought that Qiu Feng would be easy to talk to, but to his surprise, Qiu Feng actually shook his head. "Young master, humans are not allowed to live in the Cheongqi cave. This has been the rule since ancient times." This was difficult. "Old man, didn't you say that I'm the young master of the Cheongqi royal family? Since I'm the young master, you can't even fulfill such a small request of mine?" Yi Li looked at Cheong Feng. "I can't." Cheong Feng shook his head again. Yi Li's face darkened. He thought to himself, what kind of young master is that? "Grandpa Cheong, let them stay here." A voice as clear as a skylark's call reached Yi Li's ears. The voice came from none other than Cheong Ling. Yi Li looked at Cheong Ling. He thought that Cheong Ling was a demon lord easy to manipulate. He did not expect her to be so opinionated. Chapter 820, Bargaining Lease. Reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron. Cheong Feng was somewhat stunned. Lai said to Cheong Ling, "But Demon Lord, no human has lived in the Cheongqi cave since ancient times. Rules change." After Cheong Ling finished speaking, he continued, "Grandpa Cheong want them to stay here." Cheong Feng was speechless. After pondering for a few seconds, he could only nod. "All right." Seeing that he agreed, Yi Li's heart that was in his throat finally relaxed. "Old man, look at you, Demon Lord, then look at you." When Cheong Feng heard this, he turned his dirty face away. "Don't forget that the Demon Lord is your fiancé. Copyright E." With that said, Cheong Feng suddenly thought of something and said to Cheong Ling, "Demon Lord, I can let them stay here, but can one make a condition for young master?" "Grandpa Cheong, do as you see fit." With that, Cheong Ling left. Cheong Ling was not a demon lord to begin with. Later, she heard from Qiu Feng that there was a demon called Demon King Yi Li in the Northern Realm. She told Qiu Feng to let Yi Li be the demon lord of the Cheongqi royal family. Brat Cheong Feng said that although Yi Li was a demon, he was not a Cheongqi. Under the insistence of Cheong Ling, they began to vote. They originally wanted Yi Li to be the young master of the Cheongqi royal family first. They did not know what went wrong with this old guy Cheong Feng, who came up with an idea. That was to let Cheong Ling marry Yi Li. Cheong Ling did not know what marriage meant, so she agreed. Yi Li looked at Cheong Feng. "Old man, what are your conditions? Tell me." Cheong Feng chuckled and raised a finger at Yi Li. "What do you mean?" Naturally, Yi Li didn't understand why Cheong Feng raised his finger. "It means that you must marry our demon lord in a year," Cheong Feng said to Yi Li. "Old man, you..." Yi Li was stunned. He had never seen such a shameless old man. "Think about it. If it doesn't work, take them away." Cheong Feng pursed his lips and said. Yi Li thought that if this old man was not a Cheongqi, he should be a good businessman who was very good at bargaining. "Old man, do you think one still have the right to refuse?" Yi Li looked at Cheong Feng. Cheong Feng raised his dirty face. "I think so." Yi Li was speechless. He was really speechless. He felt that if he continued to talk to this old man, he might have a heart attack from anger. "All right, one agree." After saying that, Yi Li walked out of the Cheongqi cave angrily. The airflow in the Cheongqi cave seemed to have sensed Yi Li's anger and started to retreat. Strength. Yi Li yearned for strength now. It had been a long time since he yearned for strength like this. He was an invincible existence in the Mystic Land, but after coming to the Eastern Land, he felt that he was nothing. Before coming to the Eastern Land, he thought that he had made sufficient preparations, but it turned out to be a joke. If he wanted to increase his strength, he had to synthesize zombies. Yi Li ran all the way and arrived at an unknown place. Along the way there were many dilapidated small cities. In the end he stopped in a city. He stood on the rooftop of an office building and noticed that there were many zombies on the street. Roar. Yi Li released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space and asked them to gather zombies. Before long, all the zombies in this small city had been synthesized by him. Now the Apocalypse Legion was all at the 9th tier lord level. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a super treasure map. Chapter 821. No one believes the truth. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Hearing the system's voice, Yili showed a playful smile. Without hesitation, Yili used this super treasure map. Then the coordinates appeared in Yili's mind. Before coming to the Eastern Land, Yili also obtained a super treasure map. However, after coming to the Eastern Land, it disappeared. The coordinates had a name: Zombie Territory. Zombie Territory? Yili's eyes lit up. Since that was the name, there must be a lot of zombies. There must be a shocking number of them. Then he activated swift steps and headed towards the zombie territory. Some distance away from the zombie territory, he found that a few small base cities had been occupied by zombies. No matter how small an ant was, it was still meat. Yili synthesized these zombies. Yili was in a broken base city, which had been occupied by zombies. Suddenly, a group of genetic warriors appeared in front of him. This group of genetic warriors were all very young. They looked to be in their 20s, and most of them were 10th tier evolved beings. There was only one tier 1 transcender. Where are the zombies? A girl was very stunned. This girl was a tier 1 transcender among this group of genetic warriors. Didn't you say that this place has been occupied by zombies? Why don't one see a single zombie? Sister Linger, there's someone there. A woman pointed in Yili's direction. The dozen or so genetic warriors hurriedly looked in the direction of the woman's finger and realized that a handsome man had appeared in their vision. Strange, why are there humans here? Jinling was very puzzled. Sister Linger, I'll go over and ask. With that, the girl walked towards Yili. Excuse me, why are you here? The girl looked at Yili and the Apocalypse Legion and asked. When Yili heard this, he looked bored. Do I need to tell you why I'm here? Yili looked at the girl calmly. The girl was stunned. She didn't expect Yili to say such a thing. At this moment, Jinling walked over with more than 10 genetic warriors. Are you genetic warriors? Jinling stared at Yili and the Apocalypse Legion. No. Yili shook his head. I'm a demon. They're zombies. Jinling and the dozen or so genetic warriors were shocked. They looked at Yili and the Apocalypse Legion in shock. Are you sick? A genetic warrior who looked unruly looked at Yili in disdain. You call yourself a demon? In the entire Eastern Land, only the Cheongchi royal family are demons. But they never come out easily. As for the people beside you, no matter how I look at them, they don't look like zombies. Yili sighed secretly. Why did no one believe the truth these days? What? You don't believe me? Yili looked at the man in front of him indifferently. The man smiled coldly. Of course I won't believe the words of a lunatic. Alt-da, turn him into a zombie. Roar. Ada shot out after hearing that. How could the man react? The zombie virus of a 9th tier lord level zombie worked too fast. In an instant the man became a zombie. Roar. Roar. The man bit Yili's arm, but with a clang the man's teeth all fell off. Then, a golden light shot out from Yili's eyes and the man instantly melted into nothingness. The entire process was smooth like water flowed. He doesn't believe me. What about you guys? Yili looked at Jinling and the dozen or so genetic warriors indifferently. Chapter 822. Wild Thunder Base City. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Jinling and the dozen or so genetic warriors were already scared silly as they looked at Yili in horror. You, what exactly are you? I told you I'm a demon, Yili said slowly. By the way, there are many zombies in the zombie territory, right? Yili asked Jinling. Jinling did not dare to hesitate and hurriedly said, there used to be a lot of zombies in the zombie territory, but they're all attacking the 32 base cities in the southwest. They have almost reached our base city. Yili was a little bored when he heard this. He thought that this was boring. Your base city? Our base city is the largest base city in the 32 base cities. It's called Wild Thunder Base City. Yili thought that instead of looking for zombies, it would be more interesting to wait for them to gather together. Infiltrate the zombies, Yili ordered the Apocalypse Legion. Then the Apocalypse Legion disappeared. Let's go. Yili said to Jinling and the dozen or so genetic warriors. Where are we going? Jinling asked in horror. Wild Thunder Base City, Yili said slowly. Jinling and the dozen or so genetic warriors were stunned. Why are you going to Wild Thunder Base City? Although Jinling was afraid, she wanted to know why Yi had left Wild Thunder Base City. Yili looked at Jinling. Do you think one will tell you? He thought that the treasures in the zombie territory shouldn't be those zombies, but he decided to let the Apocalypse Legion level up first. He wasn't in a hurry for anything else. Jean Ling did not dare to continue asking and could only bring Yi Li to Wild Thunder Base City. Wild Thunder Base City. Wild Thunder Base City was the largest base city in the 32 base cities. Senior, this is Wild Thunder Base City. Jean Ling said to Yi Li. Yi Li looked at the outer wall of the base city and realized that the base city was already fully armed. All sorts of anti-aircraft and laser cannons were set up. Then Yi Li walked into the base city. The dozen or so genetic warriors following behind Jean Ling had long wanted to run. As soon as they entered Wild Thunder Base City, they all fled like bees. Jean Ling was stunned. Senior, where are we going now? Jean Ling looked at Yi Li carefully. Your house, Yi Li said lightly. Jean Ling was shocked. She didn't expect Yi Li to say such a thing. Senior, why are you going to my house? Do you always talk so much nonsense? Yi Li looked at Jean Ling calmly. Jean Ling did not dare to speak anymore and could only bring Yi Li towards the Jean family. What Yi Li didn't understand was why every time he went to a base city, there were always some stupid ants blocking his way. Then another stupid ant blocked Yi Li's side, looking so arrogant. Jean Ling, who is this? This man looked to be around 23 or 24 years old, and his face was filled with extreme arrogance. Lin Hao, move aside. Jean Ling became anxious. Jean Ling, no matter what, I was one of your former suitors. You should at least let me have a say in your choice of boyfriend. After saying that, Lin Hao began to size up Yi Li. He looks alright, but his strength isn't that great. He's probably just an evolved being. Lin Hao's cultivation level was the same as Jean Ling's, a Tier 1 transcender. Hey, what's your name? Lin Hao looked at Yi Li. However, Yi Li did not even look at Lin Hao. Yo, you're quite arrogant. Lin Hao smiled. With that, Lin Hao reached out a hand to Yi Li. Chapter 823, Coming to the Jean Family Lease. Reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron. Jean Ling was stunned when she saw Lin Hao reach out a hand to Yi Li. She didn't expect Lin Hao to do this. Lin Hao, don't. Before Jean Ling could finish speaking, Lin Hao was sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. Splurt. Lin Hao spat out a mouthful of blood. How is this possible? Lin Hao was stunned. As a Tier 1 transcender, he actually didn't discover how Yi Li attacked. Suddenly, he thought of a shocking possibility, which was that Yi Li was a supreme powerhouse. Thinking of this, Lin Hao hurriedly got up from the ground. He quickly walked to Yi Li's side and bowed to him. Senior, I was blind. One hope you can forgive me, Lin Hao said to Yi Li. Yi Li smiled to himself. He didn't expect Lin Hao to be so discerning. Let's go. Yi Li ignored Lin Hao and said calmly to Jean Ling. Jean Ling nodded and walked towards the Jean family with Yi Li. Lin Hao looked at Yi Li's back and thought about how he realized that there was no change in Yi Li's expression at all. Other than being an expert, there was no other explanation for this. Lin Hao was suddenly glad that he did not offend Yi Li too much. Otherwise his life would be over. Not long after, Yi Li and Jean Ling arrived outside the Jean family. Senior, this is the Jean family, Jean Ling said to Yi Li. Yi Li nodded. There was no change in his handsome face. Let's go in, Yi Li said slowly. Then Jean Ling and Yi Li walked into the Jean family. Jean Ling was the most talented child of the Jean family, so no one dared to stop them. Sister Ling, who is this person? A girl who looked like a porcelain doll appeared in front of Yi Li. The girl looked 13 or 14 years old. She was a 7th-tier evolved being. The disciples of the Jean family gathered around when they heard this. They all wanted to know who Yi Li was. He's... Jean Ling did not know how to answer. She wanted to say something but hesitated. My name is Yi Li. You can call me Demon King Yi Li. I'm not a human but a demon. Just as Jean Ling didn't know how to answer, Yi Li introduced himself. When the disciples of the Jean family heard Yi Li's words, they were all shocked. Call him Demon King Yi Li? Not a human but a demon? But no matter how they looked at it, Yi Li was still a human. Are you really a demon? The porcelain doll-like girl asked in confusion. Yi Li nodded. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly and a faint smile appeared on his face. Of course you don't believe me? Yi Li glanced at the people from the Jean family and said. Not to mention the Jean family, even Jean Ling could not believe that Yi Li was a demon, although she knew that Yi Li could control zombies. However, in the entire Eastern land only the Cheongqi royal family were demons. They had not appeared for many years. Well, we don't believe it. The porcelain doll girl nodded. Jean Ling was a little shocked when she heard that. She quickly looked at Yi Li and was relieved to see that there was no change in Yi Li's expression. Then let me, Demon King Yi Li, show you a few moves, Yi Li said lightly. With that, Yi Li's entire body began to emit demonic aura. The entire Jin family was instantly enveloped by this terrifying demonic aura. Shock, absolute shock. None of the Jin family disciples in the courtyard could say anything. They only felt deep fear. Chapter 824. Everyone in the Jin family was terrified. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. The Jin family's head, Jin Feng, and the other elders hurriedly walked out of the hall. Their faces were also filled with shock. What's going on? They felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on them, making it difficult for them to breathe. Yili looked indifferently at the group of people who walked out of the hall and slowly said, "My name is Yili. From now on I want to stay here." With that, Yili retracted the demonic aura. The pressure instantly disappeared. Everyone in the Jin family heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Yili in shock. "Who are you?" The head of the Jin family, Jin Feng, stared at Yili. His intuition told him that this person in front of him was definitely terrifying to the extreme. "A demon," Yili said frankly. "A demon?" Jin family's people and elders were all stunned, not knowing what to say for a moment. "Umph." The head of the Jin family, Jin Feng, suddenly snorted coldly. "So what if you're a demon? Why should our Jin family let you stay?" As soon as he finished speaking, everyone from the Jin family looked at Yili and thought to themselves, "That's right. Even if you're a demon, why should our Jin family let you stay? Don't we have any pride?" Yili looked at the sun in the sky and then at his finger. After a few seconds he slowly said, "Because if you don't agree, all of you will die. Is this reason clear enough?" "What?" The head of the Jin family, Jin Feng, and everyone in the Jin family were shocked. Although this sentence made them extremely angry when Yili said this, the domineering aura in that instant made them, however, it made them feel that Yili wasn't saying empty words. "What if I don't believe you?" Jin Feng frowned and stared at Yili. A faint smile appeared on Yili's face when he heard this. He raised his index finger and a terrifying white spiritual light wrapped around it. Suddenly Yili pointed at the sky. The extremely terrifying white spiritual energy shot into the sky. Boom. In an instant, it was as if a huge hole had been poked in the sky. It was a shocking sight. "Oh my God." Jin family's people were all greatly shocked. This was just too terrifying. Jin Feng and the elders of the Jin family took 3 steps back. To be able to launch such an attack, they naturally knew that Yili was definitely a demon that they could not even look up to. "We agree." Jin Feng shouted at Yili. There was still no change in Yili's expression. Instead, there was a hint of laziness on his face. "I'm tired," Yili said slowly. "Quick." Jin Feng hurriedly shouted, "Quickly bring Senior to rest." Then someone immediately brought Yi to a room. After entering the room, Yili lay on the bed and slept until night time. At night, the sky was filled with stars and the moon hung high in the sky. The bright moonlight shone on Yili's face through the window. Yili opened his eyes reluctantly. He sensed the Apocalypse Legion and found that they had successfully infiltrated the zombie army. Now, many zombie armies were heading toward Wild Thunder Bay City. However, he still needed some time. "Senior." Suddenly, Jin Ling's voice entered Yili's ears. "Come in," Yili said impatiently. He thought that Jin Ling must be up to no good if she came at this time. Chapter 825. Jin Ling's request. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Jin Ling walked in with a red face. "Senior." An evil smile appeared on Yili's face. "Tell me, what do you want from me?" "I want to." Jin Ling wanted to say something but hesitated as if she had something difficult to say. Yili smiled. He could easily guess what Jin Ling wanted to do. "I'm not a patient person. If you don't tell me, you can go out." Yili looked at Jin Ling indifferently and said. Jin Ling's entire body trembled when she heard this. In the end, she mustered her courage and said what she wanted to say. "Senior, can you come with me to the zombie territory?" Well, ever since Yili transmigrated to this world, he had never been surprised by anything. However, Jin Ling's words were something he had never expected. Originally, he had thought that Jin Ling was looking for him for something, but he did not expect. This really surprised him. "Why do you want to go to the zombie territory?" Yili looked at Jin Ling with confusion and asked. "Senior, I heard that there's zombie Lingji in the zombie territory. It can cure all illnesses. My grandfather's hidden illness is getting worse and worse. I'm afraid." Jin Ling did not continue because her eyes were already red. Yili understood. Jin Ling wanted him to go to the zombie territory with her to pick the zombie Lingji to save her grandfather. "How far is the zombie territory from here?" Yili asked Jin Ling, it's not very far. It's a 3-day journey, Jinling replied. Yili thought that if he used swift steps, he would arrive in a few hours. The coordinates of the super treasure map were in the zombie territory. He thought to himself, should one make a trip there? Where's your grandfather? Jinling was stunned. Senior, do you want to see my grandfather? Yili nodded. Bring me to him. Although Jinling did not know why Yili wanted to meet his grandfather, she knew that Yili did not have any ill intentions. Then Jinling brought Yili to a place. Jinling's grandfather's name was Jin Kan. He was originally the grand elder of the Jin family, but after fighting a dark race member comparable to him more than 10 years ago, he had a hidden illness. Now it was getting more and more serious. After Yili and Jinling arrived at Jin Kan's ward, there were several doctors in the ward. An old man was sleeping on the bed. His face was frighteningly pale and he looked extremely weak. Miss Jin, your grandfather is already asleep, a doctor whispered to Jinling. Jinling nodded and looked at Yili. She wanted to see why Yili wanted to see her grandfather. Yili didn't say anything. Instead, he raised his palm and a gentle white spiritual energy shot towards Jin Kan. A few seconds later, Jin Kan's originally pale face became incomparably rosy, as if he had become 10 years younger. Well, heart rate is normal. All tests are normal. The doctors in the ward were stunned. They had been doctors for decades and had never seen such a strange thing. What happened? The doctors realized that even if they racked their brains, they could not figure out what was going on. Ichim? Why do I suddenly feel so energetic? Jin Kan woke up and his old face was filled with shock. Master Jin, you've recovered. Your injuries have healed. A doctor said to Jin Kan, my injuries have healed? Jin Kan was extremely shocked. Then he stretched his muscles and realized that he had indeed recovered. Haha, I had thought my injuries wouldn't have recovered. Chapter 826. The Zombie Territory Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron, Grandpa, have you really recovered? Jinling looked at Jin Kan in shock. Jin Kan nodded. Linger, I feel better. Hearing this, Jinling looked at Yili. You guessed right. I did it, Yili said slowly. What? Not only Jinling but even the doctors in the ward were stunned. Sir, did you treat Lord Jin Kan's injury? A doctor looked at Yili and asked. Of course, Yili didn't want to talk to this doctor. He looked at Jinling. Can we go now? Jinling was stunned. Where are we going? Zombie territory, Yili said slowly. With that, Yili held Jinling's hand and used swift steps to disappear from the spot. Before Jin Kan could ask anything, Yili and Jinling disappeared into thin air, leaving Jin Kan and the doctors frozen on the spot in shock. Yili ran all the way to the zombies. A few hours later, Yili and Jinling appeared in the zombie territory. Jinling's eyes were wide open, and her mouth was wide open for the biggest time in history. She felt that she suddenly disappeared from her grandfather's ward, and then she didn't know anything. When she reappeared, she was outside the zombie territory. What's going on? Jinling looked at Yili in shock. Yili smiled calmly. He looked at Jinling and said slowly, Are you very shocked? Jinling was stunned. Of course, she was shocked that she suddenly went from the Jin family to the zombie territory. Before she knew how to answer, she heard Yili say, Never be too shocked because everything I do will leave you shocked for 3 days and 3 nights. As soon as these words were spoken, Jinling could not help but be even more shocked. Let's go in, Yili said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, Yili slowly walked into the zombie territory. When Yili walked 10 steps away, Jinling came back to her senses and hurriedly followed him. The zombie territory was a boundless forest. There were only a few zombies left in the base. The other zombies had all been sent out to attack the base cities. Senior, what are we doing in the zombie territory? Jinling looked at Yili with confusion and asked. Her grandfather's injury had already healed, so there was no need for them to come to the zombie territory. I'm looking for something, Yili said slowly. Jinling was relieved when she heard that. She felt that Yili was definitely not here to pick the corpse Lingji. Roar. Roar. Although there weren't many zombies left in this zombie territory, there were still some. Seeing Yili and Jinling enter the zombie territory, they all pounced on them. Yili looked bored. He thought that these zombies weren't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Swish. With a wind-breaking sound, dozens of zombies instantly melted into nothingness. Well, Jinling hurriedly rubbed her eyes, feeling that she had seen it wrongly. Senior, how did you do that? Although Jinling was terrified, she was more shocked. There's nothing to say, Yili said frankly. Then he activated the heavenly spirit eyes to search. From Yi Li's point of view, the treasure in the zombie territory was most likely the incomplete 9-li pot. He now had one incomplete 9-li pot in his hands. As long as he found 2 more, he would be able to synthesize the complete 9-li pot. After searching for a long time, he found nothing. Yi Li was a little displeased. The zombie territory was huge. Finding the 9-li pot was no different from finding a needle in a haystack. Chapter 827. The Dark Race Members in the Zombie Territory. Lise reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Yi Li's luck had always been very good. When his luck came, it was like chewing gum and couldn't be stopped. As the saying went, there was always a way out. Just as Yi Li was about to give up searching, a few voices suddenly entered his ears. "Hee, we have obtained the incomplete 9-li pot. We can go back now." Hearing this voice, Yi Li's face lit up. "Let's go over," Yi Li said to Jinling with a smile. Jinling looked at Yi Li's figure and thought that this was the demeanor of an expert. The actions of an expert had always been unpredictable. A moment later, a few Dark Race members were reflected in Jinling's eyes. "Senior Dark Race." Jinling called out to Yi Li. Perhaps it was because Jinling had not seen the Dark Race members for too long. Her voice became a little loud and was discovered by the Dark Race members not far away. Humans. These Dark Race members were all humanoid mantises. They looked at Yi Li and Jinling, and the mantises were shocked. Obviously, they didn't expect humans to appear in this zombie territory. Giggle. Suddenly, the 5 human mantises turned smug. They thought that not only had they found the incomplete 9-li pot, but they had also encountered 2 humans. Good things came in pairs. "Humans, I don't know whether you're unlucky or we're lucky. Hurry up and let us eat you." A human-shaped mantis hooked its finger at Yi Li and Jinling. Jinling looked at Yi Li in shock, but he realized that there was still no change in Yi Li's expression. It was as if no matter what happened, his expression would not change. Seeing this, Jinling was relieved. Yi Li really didn't understand. He really didn't understand why there were always so many ants looking for trouble with him. Was it really not good to be alive? These 5 mantises were only at the 7th tier. They were as weak as ants. "You want to eat me?" Yi Li looked at the 5 humanoid mantis monsters in front of him playfully. The 5 humanoid mantis monsters all chuckled. "That's right. We just want to eat you." Yi Li smiled again when he heard that. "But I am not a human. How are you going to eat me?" As soon as these words were spoken, the 5 humanoid mantis monsters were stunned. No matter how hard they thought, they could not understand what this human meant. "You said you're not a human, but from what you're saying," a humanoid mantis monster laughed coldly. "Could you be from the Dark Race?" The other 4 humanoid mantis monsters laughed out loud. "Actually, I'm a demon," Yi Li said slowly to the 5 humanoid mantis monsters. However, the 5 humanoid mantis monsters laughed even louder, as if they had never heard such a funny joke since they were born. Yi Li looked at the smiles on the faces of the 5 humanoid mantis monsters and couldn't help but be amused. "Since you don't believe that I am a demon, what about now?" Demonic aura emanated from Yi Li's body. "What?" The 5 humanoid mantis monsters were scared out of wits. Feeling such demonic aura, how could the 5 humanoid mantis monsters say a complete sentence? "Why, you're a demon?" A humanoid mantis monster looked at Yi Li in shock. Yi Li smiled calmly. "That's right." Chapter 828. Incomplete 9-li pot in hand. Lise reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. When the 5 humanoid mantis monsters heard Yi Li's words, they all took a few steps back. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds, and that was to escape. "Run!" a humanoid mantis monster shouted. Then they all began to escape at the fastest speed in history. Just as they ran more than 10 meters away, Yi Li suddenly appeared in front of them and looked at them indifferently. "You want to run?" Yi Li looked at the 5 humanoid mantis monsters playfully. When the 5 humanoid mantis monsters saw Yi Li appear in front of them, their eyes were filled with endless shock. What do you want?" "Although you're a demon, we're from Mantis Mountain." This humanoid mantis monster wanted to use its identity to make Yi Li retreat. Unfortunately, Yi Li was never afraid of being threatened. In this world, there were many people who had threatened him, but they usually did not end well. "Hand over the incomplete 9-li pot." Yi Li opened his hand. The 5 humanoid mantis monsters were shocked. When they saw Yi Li and Jinling, they had already put away the incomplete 9-li pot. They really could not understand how Yi Li knew about it. We don't have the incomplete 9-li pot," replied a humanoid mantis monster. However, as soon as the humanoid mantis monster finished speaking, he let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. His life disappeared from this world forever. What? When the other 4 humanoid mantis monsters saw this scene, they were so frightened that their souls almost left their bodies. They'll say it again. Hand over the incomplete 9-li pot. Don't make me repeat myself a 3rd time, said Yi Li slowly. These 4 humanoid mantis monsters dared to swear that this was the most terrifying time they had ever experienced. All right. Although the incomplete 9-li pot was very important, it was nothing in front of life. Following that, a humanoid mantis monster took out the incomplete 9-li pot from its backpack. It walked over shakily and handed the incomplete 9-li pot to Yi Li. Yi Li took the incomplete 9-li pot. Now he had already gathered 2 incomplete 9-li pots. If he found one more, he would be able to synthesize the complete 9-li pot. Sir, can we leave now? A humanoid mantis monster looked at Yi Li in horror and asked, "What do you guys think?" Yi Li smiled lightly. The 4 humanoid mantis monsters were all shocked. They looked at Yi Li in shock because they didn't understand what Yi Li meant. Under normal circumstances, shouldn't he let them go after they handed over the pot? Then, my lord, we're leaving. The 4 humanoid mantis monsters were about to leave. Yi Li looked at their trembling backs and thought that these 4 humanoid mantis monsters were really confident. How could he let them go? After taking a few steps, the 4 humanoid mantis monsters began to fly and escape. Swish, swish, swish. With a few wind-breaking sounds, the 4 humanoid mantis monsters were all melted into nothingness. They did not know how they died until they died. As for Yi Li, there was still no change in his expression. It was as though nothing had happened. He played with the incomplete 9-li pot in his hand before placing it into the system space. When Yi Li turned around, he found that Jinling had already frozen on the spot like a clay statue, as if he had seen something impossible. Yi Li shook his head secretly. He thought that even if he told Jinling not to be shocked, she would still be shocked involuntarily. Not only Jinling but everyone was the same. At least the people he met were like this. Chapter 829, Send You to Hell. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron. Yi Li looked at Jinling, who froze on the spot, and said slowly, "Let's go." Jinling came back to her senses and looked at Yi Li in shock. Just as the 2 of them were about to leave the zombie territory, several more voices entered their ears. Why aren't they back yet? I don't know. Let's go in and take a look. Could those guys have found the incomplete 9-li pot and escaped? Hearing this voice, Yi Li's lips curled up slightly. There's a path to heaven but you don't take it. There is no gate to hell but you force your way in. A dozen humanoid mantis monsters appeared in front of Yi Li and Jinling. Look, there are humans. A human mantis monster pointed at Yi Li and Jinling. More than 10 humanoid mantis monsters were all at the 7th tier. They were too weak and pitiful. A 7th tier humanoid mantis monster stared at Yi Li and asked, "Humans, have you seen my clansmen?" Yes. Yi Li nodded. Obviously, the dozen or so humanoid mantis monsters did not expect Yi Li to answer like this. They were just giving it a try. "Since you've seen them, tell us where they are," a 7th tier humanoid mantis monster said. Yi Li smiled calmly and said indifferently, "Do you really want to see them?" "Brat, what do you mean?" More than 10 humanoid mantis monsters stared at Yi Li. There was no change in Yi Li's expression. He said frankly, "If you really want to see them, you can't see them in the zombie territory. You have to go. Where are we going?" A 7th tier humanoid mantis monster interrupted Yi Li. Yi Li slowly said, "Hell." What? The 7th tier humanoid mantis monsters were all shocked. They didn't expect Yi Li to say such a thing. "Human, you mean they're dead?" A 7th tier humanoid mantis monster stared at Yi Li. "I thought you were as stupid as pigs." "I didn't expect you to be a bit better than stupid pigs," Yi Li said indifferently. When the dozen 7th tier humanoid mantis monsters heard this, they were all furious. As members of the mantis tribe, they had never heard a human speak to them like this. "Human, one think you've eaten the guts of a leopard. How dare you call us stupid pigs? They'll make you die without a burial place today." A 7th tier humanoid mantis monster shouted. However, Yi Li's expression did not change at all. He said slowly, "You've provoked me, the Demon King Yi Li. You're 100 times more stupid than stupid pigs." More than 10 humanoid mantis monsters rushed out and attacked Yi Li at an extremely fast speed. Heavenly Demon Finger. Yi Li didn't want to play games with these human mantis monsters and directly used the god-level skill, Heavenly Demon Finger. In an instant, a terrifying white spiritual light attack flew over at lightning speed. How could these humanoid mantis monsters dodge it? Air? With screams that sounded like pigs being slaughtered, more than 10 seventh-tier humanoid mantis monsters died. Senior, you're too amazing. Jinling had to admit that she had never seen a human as terrifying as Yi Li since she was born. No, he should be a demon. Too terrifying, simply too terrifying. You should know where these humanoid mantis monsters live, right? Yi Li looked at Jinling and said calmly. Chapter 830, You've been surrounded by me. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Jinling was a little stunned. She couldn't understand why Yi Li would ask such a question. Senior, I know where the humanoid mantis monster lives, but why are you asking this? Jinling was very puzzled. Yi Li smiled and said frankly, to annihilate their clan, of course. What? Jinling's pupils constricted. Annihilate their clan? She looked at Yi Li and realized that the current Yi Li had killing intent in the corners of his eyes and eyebrows. He had an intimidating aura in front of him and behind him, domineering and majestic. Senior, I know you're a supreme being, but there are thousands of humanoid mantis monsters on Mantis Mountain. I'm afraid. Jinling did not continue, meaning that he could not do it alone. Lead the way, Yi Li said calmly. Jinling was stunned. She didn't expect Yi Li to still go even after she said that. Helpless, she could only lead the way for Yi Li, Mantis Mountain. The Mantis Mountain was the home of the humanoid mantis monsters. There were thousands of them here. Senior, this is Mantis Mountain, Jinling said to Yi Li. Yi Li sized up the Mantis Mountain and realized that the Mantis Mountain was really like a mantis. The surroundings were filled with strange rocks, looking rather eerie. Hee, what did I find? Suddenly Yi Li and Jinling heard a cold laugh. Senior, there's a humanoid mantis monster. Jinling hurriedly said to Yi Li. Yi Li's face was as calm as water. He looked in the direction of the voice and saw a fifth-tier humanoid mantis monster looking at them smugly. Humans, are you lost? Do you want me to lead the way? The fifth-tier humanoid mantis monster smiled at Yi Li and Jinling. Seeing that Yi Li did not speak, Jinling said to the fifth-tier humanoid mantis monster, You're already dead. What? The fifth-tier humanoid mantis monster was stunned. He did not expect Jinling to say such a thing. Shouldn't he be the one saying this? Human, you said that I'm already dead. I'd like to see how you're going to let me die. This humanoid mantis monster was only at the 5th tier, and Jinling was a tier 1 transcender. Not to mention being pitifully weak in front of Yi Li. Even in front of Jinling he was pitifully weak. Jinling raised his palm and attacked the 5th tier humanoid mantis monster. One shui palm. When the 5th tier humanoid mantis monster saw such an attack, it realized that it had kicked an iron plate. It shouted, I'm finished. After that, there was only silence. Yi Li smiled and thought to himself, is this what it means that near vermilion, one becomes red, near ink, one becomes black? Without another word, Yi Li activated the 5th level of the ancient dragon abyss sword. In an instant, monstrous demonic aura and sword chi enveloped the entire Mantis Mountain. Boom. The bright sky became filled with dark clouds and lightning kept striking down. It was not hard to tell that the entire Mantis Mountain was in chaos. Terrifying screams of the human-shaped mantises could be heard non-stop, making one's scalp tingle. Not long after, thousands of humanoid mantis monsters fled down the Mantis Mountain. When the thousands of humanoid mantis monsters fled down the mountain, they realized that 2 people were blocking their way, a man and a woman. Humans. The thousands of humanoid mantis monsters were all stunned. They would never have thought that 2 humans would appear in front of them at this moment. You have been surrounded by me, Yi Li said slowly as he looked at the thousands of humanoid mantis monsters. Chapter 831. Come here and let me kill you all. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. You're surrounded by me? The thousands of humanoid mantis monsters looked at each other. They would rather believe that the sky was about to collapse than believe that Yi Li would say such a thing. Human, what's wrong with you? A Tier 2 Master-level mantis monster stared at Yi Li. This Tier 2 Master-level mantis monster was the highest among the thousands of humanoid mantis monsters. There's nothing wrong with Senior. What he said is true, Jinling said seriously to the Tier 2 Master-level mantis monster. As soon as these words were spoken, the 1,000 humanoid mantis monsters were all stunned. They had seen many humans, but they had never seen anyone as arrogant as Yi Li and Jinling. Why do you want to go down this Mantis Mountain? Yi Li looked indifferently at the Tier 2 Master-level mantis monster. The Tier 2 Master Level Mantis monster was stunned. It suddenly recalled the suffocating pressure just now. It's you who gave me that suppressing pressure? The Tier 2 Master Level Mantis monster's face was filled with shock. What do you think? Yili looked at the Tier 2 Master Level Mantis calmly. You're not human? The Tier 2 Master Level Mantis monster glared at Yili. Yili smiled. Not bad. Just now, when he activated the 5th level of the Ancient Dragon Abyss Sword Embryo, demonic aura and sword intent enveloped the Mantis Mountain. It was not strange for this Tier 2 Master Level Mantis monster to know that he was not human. Are you a demon? The Tier 2 Master Level Mantis monster shouted. Yili was not human, and there was no human aura on his body at all. He could only be a demon. Don't care what 1 a.m. All of you come and die, Yili said calmly. The Tier 2 Master Level Mantis monster was shocked. He stared at Yili. Demon, our Mantis Mountain doesn't seem to have offended you, right? Yili smiled. A few humanoid mantis monsters provoked me in the zombie territory, so you have to be exterminated. Seeing the calmness on Yili's face, the thousands of humanoid mantis monsters were furious. They had never been humiliated like this. How dare you? Suddenly, a voice entered Yili and Jinling's ears. A 9th-tier humanoid mantis monster attacked Yili and Jinling. Yili shook his head. Why didn't they just listen to him when he asked them to attack together? Swish. A terrifying white spiritual light attacked the 9th-tier humanoid mantis monster. Without a doubt, the 9th-tier humanoid mantis monster melted into nothingness after being hit by the white spiritual light. What? The thousands of humanoid mantis monsters were all terrified. The entire process was too fast. They could not even believe that it was real. Demon. You actually dared to kill my clansmen. The Tier 2 Master Level Mantis monster was infuriated. However, Yili smiled and said slowly, not only do I want to kill your clansmen, but I also want to exterminate your clan. Hearing this, the Tier 2 Master Level Mantis monster could no longer tolerate Yili's arrogance. It waved its hand and roared, attack. Following the Tier 2 Master Level Mantis monster's order, thousands of humanoid mantis monsters charged towards Yili and Jinling. Looking at this scene, Jinling couldn't help but feel frightened. This was 1,000 members of the Dark Race. She quickly looked at Yili and realized that there was no change in Yili's expression. It was as if he did not see anything. Clang. Suddenly a cold light flashed in the air. Immediately after, a dragon's cry and a sword's cry appeared. A 5-clawed blood dragon circled above Yili's head. Chapter 832. Annihilation with a single sword strike. Lease reading Omicron and Oxville. Omicron M. Yili raised the ancient dragon abyss sword in his hand and said slowly, Heaven Sword Technique. Swoosh. In an instant, countless divine lights attacked the thousands of humanoid mantis monsters at an extremely fast speed. How should the next scene be described in words? Alt? Countless screams could be heard, as if the scene in front of them had really become hell on earth. Well, Jinling was stunned. She had thought that her experience in the land of zombies was the most shocking, but now she realized not only was she wrong, but also thoroughly so. Let's go. Yili walked a few steps and revealed his side profile as he said calmly to Jinling. When Jinling heard this, she quickly followed. She finally understood why Yili was so arrogant. When a person had unparalleled strength, it was impossible not to be arrogant. Wild Thunder Base City. Yili and Jinling returned to Wild Thunder Base City. He sensed the location of the Apocalypse Legion and thought that the zombie army would arrive at the outer city of Wild Thunder Base City in the next 2 days. At that time, he would be able to perform a super synthesize. You go back first. They'll take a walk here, Yili said to Jinling. Jinling nodded and walked towards the Jin family. Yili looked at the pedestrians on the street. These people more or less had happy smiles on their faces. However, how could they know that a disaster was about to descend? If it wasn't for him, Yili, their ending would be obvious. Senior, it's you? A slightly handsome man said to Yili. Yili had met this man once. When he and Jinling first came to Wild Thunder Bay City, he stood in front of him. Yili didn't want to talk to Linaleo. He slowly walked forward and prepared to walk around the base city. What Yili didn't expect was that even though the tree wanted to be quiet, the wind wouldn't stop blowing. There was a woman beside Lin Hao. When this woman saw that Yili didn't answer Linaleo, she immediately became unhappy. Didn't you hear young Master Lin talking to you? Are you deaf? This woman looked flirtatious and had heavy makeup on. Perhaps in the eyes of ordinary people, this woman was a beauty, but in Yili's eyes she was a disgusting woman. Clap. Who told you to talk to Senior like that? Lin Aleo slapped the woman's face heavily, and the woman was immediately stunned. Lin Hao, why did you hit me? The woman covered her face and looked at Lin Hao in confusion. Not only do one want to hit you, but I also want you to get lost. With that, Lin Hao kicked the woman and she was instantly sent flying. Senior, I'm sorry. Lin Hao looked at Yi Li apologetically. Why are you looking for me? Yi Li asked calmly. Lin Aleo smiled when he heard that. Senior, one offended you that day. Can I treat you to a meal? Eat. Yi Li didn't expect Lin Hao to treat him to a meal. After pondering for a few seconds, Yi Li agreed. All right. Seeing that Yi Li agreed, Lin Hao immediately beamed with joy. Then Lin Hao brought Yi Li to the best restaurant in Wild Thunder Bay City. Yi Li thought that since the zombie army was about to arrive at Wild Thunder Bay City, he had to integrate the major forces in Wild Thunder Bay City first. A moment later, Yi Li and Lin Hao arrived at the Wild Thunder Hotel. Chapter 833, Young Master Zhong Yun lease reading Omicron in Knoxville. Omicron M Wild Thunder Hotel was the largest hotel in Wild Thunder Bay City. Senior, let's go in, Lin Hao looked at Yi Li and said. Yi Li nodded. Just as he took a step forward, an ear-piercing voice entered his ears. Yo, isn't this young Master Lin? A 23 or 24-year-old man appeared in front of Yi Li. This man was the same as Lin Hao. He was also a Tier 1 transcender, and looked very arrogant and unruly. Zhong Yun, what do you want? Lin Hao looked at Zhong Yun coldly. There were 3 big families in the Bay City, the Zhong family, the Jin family, and the Lin family. The Zhong family was the most powerful family in the Bay City. I don't want to do anything. I just wanted to greet you when I saw you. When Zhong Yun looked at Yi Li, his pupils could not help but constrict because he had never seen a man as handsome as Yi Li. You are? Zhong Yun looked at Yi Li and asked. Zhong Yun, this is Senior Yu. Before Lin Hao could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Zhong Yun. Zhong Yun smiled disdainfully. What senior? Isn't he just about the same age as us? In Zhong Yun's opinion, the only reason to believe that Yi Li was a senior was that the sky was about to collapse. Tell me, who are you? Zhong Yun looked at Yi Li indifferently. He was the young master of the Zhong family and the idol of countless girls in the Wild Thunder Bay City. How could he tolerate someone as handsome as Yi Li? Yi Li's face was as calm as water. He looked at Zhong Yun and slowly said, Do you think I will tell you? When Zhong Yun heard this, his slightly handsome face could not help but be stunned. He did not expect Yi Li to say such a thing. How dare you speak to me like that? Zhong Yun glared at Yi Li. Get lost, Yi Li said slowly. The passers-by had already gathered around. They were all stunned when they saw Yi Li say this to Zhong Yun. Who is this person? How dare he speak to young Master Zhong like that? I don't know, but it looks like he's young Master Lin's friend. So what if he's young Master Lin's friend? If he speaks to young Master Zhong like this, he'll definitely end up in a miserable state. In the eyes of the passers-by, Yi Li would definitely end up in a miserable state. It was because he had offended the Zhong family, the most powerful family in the Wild Thunder Bay City. You actually dare to tell me to get lost? Zhong Yun's eyes were wide open. Even in his dreams, he never thought that Yi Li would dare to tell him to get lost. Or? As soon as Zhong Yun said that, he was sent flying. No one saw how Yi Li attacked. What happened? The onlookers were stunned. They did not expect such a scene to happen. Lin Hao was also stunned. Zhong Yun's situation was exactly the same as his that day, both of them flying out unknowingly. One had to know that he and Zhong Yun were both Tier 1 transcender. How terrifying Senior's strength was. Senior, the Zhong family is the top family in Wild Thunder Bay City. I don't think Zhong Yun will let this go, Lin Hao said to Yi Li. Yi Li's handsome face didn't change at all. He didn't finish his sentence and walked into the Wild Thunder Hotel. Seeing this, Lin Hao could only quickly follow him. Lin Hao didn't know if this was right or wrong. Zhong Yun would definitely go to the Zhong family to call for help. When he saw him with Yi Li, the Zhong family and the Lin family would completely fall out. Chapter 834. You and your family are already gone. Lease reading Omicron in Knoxville. Omicron M. Lin Hao looked at Yi Li's back, but his intuition told him that not only did he do the right thing, but it was also the most right thing he had done since he was born. Then Lin Hao hurriedly followed. As the young master of the Lin family, the manager of the Wild Thunder Hotel personally received him. After booking the best private room in the hotel, Lin Hao ordered a large table of delicacies. Birds in the sky and geese in the clouds, fresh meat from cattle, sheep, seafood from the sea and crabs from the river. Senior, does it taste all right? Lin Hao looked at Yili carefully. Yili nodded. Yes, it's all right. Then Lin Hao hesitated. A few seconds later he continued, Senior Zhongyun's family? Before Lin Hao could finish, Yili interrupted him. In my eyes his family is just an ant. Lin Hao was shocked when he heard that. He quickly looked at Yili and secretly exclaimed that Yili was too domineering. He had never seen such a domineering person. He was just like a demon lord descending from the heavens. Young Master Lin. Young Master Lin. Suddenly the manager of Wild Thunder Hotel ran in a panic. What's wrong? Lin Hao hurriedly asked when he saw the manager panicking. The manager swallowed his saliva and quickly said, Young Master Zhong has arrived with the Zhong family. He wants you out. Lin Hao was shocked when he heard that. He hurriedly looked at Yili and realized that there was no change in Yili's expression at all. It was as if he did not hear anything. Senior, look? Lin Hao looked at Yili and asked tentatively. Yili wiped his mouth with a tissue and said slowly, Since they want to die, I Yili can only fulfill their wish. As soon as he finished speaking, Yili stood up and walked out. Seeing this, Lin Hao hurriedly followed. When Yili and Lin Hao arrived outside the Wild Thunder Hotel, they realized that Zhong Yun had appeared in front of them with more than 10 genetic warriors from the Zhong family. Most of the genetic warriors were Tier 3 to 5th Tier Transcender. One of them was an 8th Tier Transcender. Senior Zhong Yun brought the 10th Elder of the Zhong family here. The 10th Elder is an 8th Tier Transcender, Lin Hao said to Yili in a low voice. When Yili heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and an evil smile appeared on his face. Brat, you were the one who beat me just now, right? Zhong Yun stared at Yili. Yili looked at Zhong Yun in disdain. A few seconds later he said calmly, Do you know that when you say this, you and your family will be destroyed? Zhong Yun, the 10th elder of the Zhong family, and more than 10 genetic warriors were stunned when they heard Yili's words. Then they laughed wildly. Ha ha ha. They almost burst into tears as if they had just heard the funniest joke in history. The onlookers couldn't help but laugh. In Wild Thunder Bay City, anyone who heard this would probably laugh. Brat, I really admire you. I'm very interested in your name now, the 10th elder of the Zhong family said to Yili. The onlookers also looked at Yili. They all wanted to know who could say such arrogant words. Since you want to know so much, I'll fulfill your wish. My name is Yili. You can call me Demon King Yili, Yili said slowly. Demon King Yili? Naturally, the Zhong family and the onlookers had never heard of this name. Zhong Yun snorted and stared at Yili. What, Demon King Yili? You're just a clown. Chapter 835. Kill Zhong Yun. Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. Zhong Yun looked at Yili with extreme disdain. Although the strength that Yili displayed just now was very powerful, it was really not worth mentioning in front of the Zhong family. You actually dare to say that Senior is a clown? Lin Hao stared at Zhong Yun. Zhong Yun smiled coldly. Isn't that so? The onlookers looked at each other. They thought that Zhong Yun was the young master of the Zhong family and definitely had the right to say such words. Zhong Yun, for some reason Lin Hao admired Yili very much. He didn't know why he could admire him so much. Zhong Yun ignored Lin Hao and looked at Yili. Demon King Yili, one said you're a clown. What are you going to do? Zhong Yun said with a calm smile. There was no change in Yili's handsome face at all. He looked at Zhong Yun indifferently and looked at his fingers before slowly saying, You will die. What? Zhong Yun, the 10th elder, the Zhong family's genetic warriors, and the surrounding crowd were all stunned. They never expected Yili to say such a thing. Demon King Yili. Zhong Yun was furious. He stared at Yili and continued, I want to see how you're going to kill me. The onlookers quickly looked at Yili. They wanted to see how Yili would answer. Instead, they were all scared out of their wits because there was only an afterimage left where Yili was. Well, the eyes of the onlookers widened. This was the biggest opening they had ever seen. The genetic warriors of the Zhong family did not expect Yili to be so fast. He was so fast that the naked eye could not capture him. They wanted to capture Yili's voice, but unfortunately, even if they had 10 pairs of eyes they could not find him. When Yili appeared again he was already in front of Zhong Yun. When Zhong Yun saw Yili suddenly appear in front of him, he could not help but be shocked. Demon King Yili, you. Before Zhong Yun could finish speaking he would never have the chance to continue. A shocking bloody hole had already appeared on his forehead. The entire process was so fast that it took less than a second. When everyone present returned to their senses, they realized that Zhong Yun had already fallen to the ground and was no longer alive. Well, Zhong family's 10th elder's pupils constricted. He looked at Zhong Yun's corpse in disbelief. Lin Hao was also shocked to the extreme. He swallowed his saliva and thought that if he had offended Senior like this that day, he would probably have died. For a moment, Lin Hao was extremely glad. Demon King Yi Li, you actually killed the young master of my Zhong family? The 10th elder shouted angrily at Yi Li. How could the onlookers say anything at this moment? The expressions on their faces seemed to have frozen, and time seemed to have stopped. So what? Yi Li looked at the 10th elder of the Zhong family indifferently. At this moment, there were absolutely no words that could describe the shock in Lin Hao's heart. One had to know that Zhong Yun was the young master of the Zhong family. After the senior killed Zhong Yun, there was actually no fluctuation on his face, as if he was doing something insignificant. How could there be such a person in this world? He did not know. He really did not know. Demon King Yi Li, I want you to pay with your life. Chapter 836. Where is the Zhong family? Lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M, the 10th elder of the Zhong family, roared and waved his hand. Kill Demon King Yi Li. Suddenly, more than 10 genetic warriors from the Zhong family pounced on Yi Li. There was still no change in Yi Li's expression. The dozen or so genetic warriors pouncing on him were pitifully weak. Swish. With more than 10 wind-breaking sounds, the lives of the dozen or so genetic warriors who pounced on him disappeared from this world forever. What? When the onlookers saw this scene, they all sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Yi Li dumbfoundedly. The 10th elder of the Zhong family was even more speechless. He would never have thought that Yi Li would be so strong. It was too terrifying. Are you very afraid? Yi Li looked at the 10th elder of the Zhong family indifferently. When the 10th elder of the Zhong family heard this, his pupils constricted rapidly, and cold sweat drenched his entire body. Demon King Yi Li, this is Wild Thunder Bay City. What are you trying to do? From the words of the 10th elder of the Zhong family, it was not difficult to tell that the Zhong family was the most powerful family in Wild Thunder Bay City. They were threatening Yi Li. Unfortunately, even if the 10th elder of the Zhong family believed that the sky was about to collapse, he would not have believed that Yi Li was never afraid of being threatened. Otherwise, he would not have killed Zhong Yun and more than 10 genetic warriors of the Zhong family. One don't want to do anything. One just want to kill you. That's all, Yi Li said calmly to the 10th elder. When the 10th elder heard Yi Li's words, a chill instantly went from his tailbone to the top of his head. He looked at Yi Li in horror. Demon King Yi Li, you can't kill me. I'm the 10th elder of the Zhong clan. If you kill me, the Zhong clan will definitely not let you off. The 10th elder of the Zhong family's voice trembled so much that it made one's scalp tingle. Anyone could tell that he didn't want to die. However, if Yi Li didn't kill him, would he still be the Demon King Yi Li? Don't worry, they will die too, Yi Li said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, a terrifying white spiritual light attacked the 10th elder of the Zhong clan, and a fist-sized bloody hole instantly appeared on his body. The 10th elder's eyes were wide open. He could not accept that he had died just like that. The onlookers were all terrified. Some of the timid ones even fainted from fear, and there were many who peed their pants. Yi Li turned around and looked at Lin Hao, only to find that Lin Hao had already frozen like a clay statue. Go and tell your family to submit to me, the Demon King Yi Li said slowly. Lin Hao came back to his senses when he heard this. He did not dare to refute at all and hurriedly ran towards the Lin family. Yi Li thought that the zombie army was about to arrive. If he didn't integrate the forces of Wild Thunder Bay City, wouldn't it be his loss if they killed the zombies? Suddenly Yi Li looked at a man beside him. When this man saw that Yi Li was looking at him, he was so scared that he peed his pants and almost knelt on the ground. This was because he felt that the moment Yi Li looked at him, he was already dead. There was no chance of survival at all. I didn't offend you, my lord. Please spare my life. The man hurriedly begged Yi Li for mercy. Where is the Zhong family? Yi Li asked the man. The man was shocked. He didn't expect Yi Li to ask him where the Zhong family was. As if he had been pardoned, he quickly told Yi Li the location of the Zhong family. After Yi Li knew the location of the Zhong family, he activated swift steps and headed towards the Zhong family. Chapter 837. Submit to me, lease reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicron M. The Zhong family. In the hall, the family head Zhong Kai was discussing something with the elders. Family head. Suddenly, a Zhong family disciple ran in. What exactly happened? Zhong Kai frowned. He never liked to interrupt meetings. There's a man outside who wants our Zhong family to submit to him. What? The head of the Zhong family, Zhong Kai, and all the elders were shocked. Say again? Zhong Kai felt that he had misheard. The Zhong family disciple quickly repeated. Where did this lunatic come from? He actually made my Zhong family submit. He really doesn't know his place. Zhong Kai smiled coldly, thinking that this was really a rare occurrence. Everyone, the Zhong family is the largest family in Wild Thunder Bay City. No one has ever dared to provoke us. Life is too peaceful for us. Why don't we go out and see which lunatic it is? Zhong Kai said to the elders. The elders all showed a playful smile because they felt that they had heard the funniest joke in history. Immediately, the Zhong family head, Zhong Kai, and the elders walked out of the Zhong family. Zhong Kai and the elders arrived outside the Zhong family and looked at Yi Li indifferently. Are you the one who wants the Zhong family to submit to you? Zhong Kai stared at Yi Li. That's right. Yi Li nodded. Ha ha ha. Zhong Kai threw his head back and laughed. The elders also laughed. What are you laughing at? Yi Li looked at them playfully. An elder looked at Yi Li with extreme disdain. Brat, did you just run out of the mental hospital? At this moment, another Zhong family disciple ran over in a hurry and whispered something in Zhong Kai's ear. What did you say? Zhong Kai's eyes widened as if he had heard something unbelievable. Yuner and the 10th elder are dead? The strength in Zhong Kai's body seemed to have been sucked away by something. In an instant he seemed to have aged 10 years. I killed Zhong Yun and the 10th elder. A slightly lazy voice entered the ears of the Zhong family. When the Zhong family heard Yi Li's words, they immediately looked at him. What did you say? Zhong Kai looked at Yi Li in a daze. After a few seconds he finally came back to his senses and stared at Yi Li. You killed Yuner and the 10th elder. Thousands of feet of anger rushed out of Zhong Kai's head. This was the angriest he had ever been. The elders were also shocked to the extreme. They originally thought that Yi Li was a lunatic, but now it seemed that not only was he not a lunatic but he was also a super expert. However, after killing the Zhong family's young master and 10th elder, he actually wanted the Zhong family to submit to him. This. What kind of logic was this? The elders of the Zhong family could not figure it out even if they racked their brains. I will tear you into pieces. Zhong Kai stared at Yi Li and said firmly. Yi Li's handsome face did not change at all. He looked at Zhong Kai indifferently and slowly said, He'll say it again. Make the Zhong family submit to me. Don't make me say it a third time. When Zhong Kai heard this, his eyes turned red. Die. After shouting, Zhong Kai attacked Yi Li. Yi Li smiled calmly. Zhong Kai was only a Tier 1 Heaven's Chosen One. Where did he get the courage to attack Demon King Yi Li? He really didn't know his place. Alf? The elders originally thought that Yi Li was about to die, but they never expected that the scream was actually made by Zhong Kai. Chapter 838. Discuss an important matter. Lease reading Omicron in Knoxville. Omicron, how was that possible? All the elders shouted because they realized that Zhong Kai had already fallen to the ground. His life had disappeared from this world forever. There was no change in Yi Li's expression as he looked at the elders indifferently. He didn't submit. What about you guys? When the elders heard this, their bodies trembled. The head of the Zhong family, Zhong Kai, was the strongest person in the Zhong family, but he died in an instant. They didn't even have time to see clearly. Yi Li smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face at all. Submit to you? Dream on. After an elder shouted angrily, he rushed towards Yi Li. The corners of Yi Li's lips curled up slightly, and a faint smile appeared on his handsome face. Swish. With a wind-breaking sound, this elder's life disappeared from this world forever. Who else is unconvinced? Yi Li looked at the other elders of the Zhong family indifferently. The elders of the Zhong family were extremely shocked and looked at Yi Li in horror. We surrender. They had dominated the various jurisdictions of Wild Thunder Bay City for decades and knew very well that they were definitely not Yi Li's match. They had no choice but to submit. Very good. Yi Li nodded. In this world, good people won't die and bad people won't die either. Only one kind of people will die, and that's stupid people, Yi Li continued. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Li disappeared. The elders of the Zhong family looked at each other and smiled bitterly, thinking that the Zhong family had provoked someone they shouldn't have. When Yili returned to the Jin family, Jin Ling saw that Yili was back and hurriedly welcomed him. "Senior, you're back," Jin Ling said to Yili. Yili nodded and followed them into the Jin family's main hall. When Jin Shan, the head of the Jin family, saw Yili, he quickly got down from his throne. "Senior, please take a seat," Jin Shan said to Yili. After Yili sat down, he said to Jin Shan, the head of the Jin family, "Call the people in charge of the Lin family and the Zhong family here. I have something important to do." Jin Shan and the elders were all stunned. It was obvious that they did not expect Yili to say such a thing. "Senior, I'm afraid that they won't listen to me," Jin Shan said to Yili doubtfully. "Don't worry, they will listen," Yili said slowly. When Jin Shan heard this, he hurriedly got someone to call the Lin family's head and the Zhong family's head. The head of the Lin family, Lin Nan, arrived at the Jin family's main hall without stopping. Ever since Lin Hao told him about Yili, he knew that an existence like Yili was not someone they could provoke. "Brother Lin Nan, you're here." Jin Shan hurriedly got someone to arrange for a seat. Suddenly, another old man stepped into the Jin family's main hall. The old man looked flustered as if he was very afraid. "Grand Elder Zhong?" Jin Shan was a little stunned and asked the old man, "Grand Elder Zhong, where's your family head?" "Our family head." The Grand Elder of the Zhong family was called Zhong Teng. At this moment, cold sweat had already drenched his entire body. He looked at Yili in fright and said, "Our family head is dead." "What?" Everyone in the main hall of the Zhong family and the Lin family head Lin Nan were all shocked. "Master Zhong is dead? How did he die?" Jin Shan and Lin Nan quickly asked. Zhong Ting didn't know how to answer. Of course he didn't dare to say that Yili killed him. "I killed him." Just as Zhong Ting didn't know how to answer, Yili spoke. Chapter 839, Supersynthesis Lease Reading Omicron in Oxville. Omicronim. Everyone in the Jin family's main hall and the Lin family's head, Lin Nan, looked at Yili in shock. "It's just an ant. It's fine if one kill him." The people in the hall did not dare to say anything else. They were all waiting for Yili to speak. Since Yili did not say anything, they naturally did not dare to speak. "Guys, the zombies are going to attack Wild Thunder Bay City," Yili said to the people in the hall. Everyone in the hall was shocked. It was obvious that they did not expect Yili to say such words. "Senior, is it true?" Jin Shan hurriedly asked. Yili smiled faintly. There was no change in his handsome face at all. "There are a lot of zombies this time. You just have to watch the battle. Leave everything else to me," Yili said. Everyone in the hall was shocked again. They really didn't know what Yili meant. "Senior, well, just do as I say." The people in the hall did not dare to speak anymore and could only nod. Now that the Apocalypse Legion had become the leaders of the zombie army, he thought that he could synthesize the zombie army this time. 5 days later, all the genetic warriors from the major factions of Wild Thunder Bay City had arrived at the outer city wall. Zombies that blotted out the sky and covered the earth appeared in front of them like a black cloud. Well, Jin Shan, the head of the Jin family, was stunned. He had never seen so many zombies since he was born. How is this possible? The genetic warriors on the outer city wall were also shocked. "Take action." Yili secretly gave an order to the Apocalypse Legion. Immediately, the Apocalypse Legion began to act. The genetic warriors on the outer city wall did not attack because Yili had given them an order. If anyone dared to attack, they would die. Yili opened the synthesis grid in his mind and synthesized a batch of zombies. Then he asked the synthesized zombies to go to the outer city wall. If this group of zombies were to attack other zombies, they would undoubtedly be wasted. Yili let the Apocalypse Legion reach the outer city wall too to show their peerless power. Swish. Only an afterimage was left on the outer city wall. The genetic warriors were shocked. Yili was nowhere to be seen. "Senior has gone down." The Jin family's family head shouted. The genetic warriors hurriedly looked down the outer city wall. Instantly, countless zombies fell to the ground. Yili continued to synthesize. There were too many zombies, but these zombies still hadn't touched the outer wall. A few days had passed, but none of the zombies had touched the outer wall. Yili had already sent the synthesized zombies to attack the other zombies. The battlefield outside the city wall of Wild Thunder Bay City instantly became chaotic. "I forgot to tell you something." Just as the genetic warriors outside the city wall of Wild Thunder City froze like clay sculptures, the head of the Jin family, Jin Shan, suddenly said, "What is it?" Lin Nan asked Jin Shan. "Actually, Senior is not human." "What?" The genetic warriors on the outer city wall were all stunned. They looked at the golden mountain in shock. Are you crazy? How dare you say that Senior is not human? Aren't you afraid? Before Lin Nan could finish, Jin Shan interrupted him. Senior is indeed not human, but a demon. A demon? As soon as these words were spoken, the genetic warriors on the outer city wall were even more shocked. Chapter 840. Leaving is a new start. Lease reading Omicron in Knoxville. Omicron M. After this wave of synthesis, the Apocalypse Legion had all become 10th tier Lord level zombies. As long as they took another step forward, they would be able to become Heavenly Lord level zombies. Ding. Congratulations to the host for becoming a Tier 1 Sky Opener. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a super treasure chest. Yili thought that this wave of synthesis was simply awesome. Without much thought, he opened the super treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the heaven-defying level skill, Demon God Fist. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a super treasure map. Heaven-defying level skill, Demon God Fist? Super treasure map? Yili's handsome face lit up. Fi thought that they were all good things. Host, are you going to cultivate the heaven-defying level skill, Demon God Fist now? Yes. 10%, 30%, 60%, 100%. Heaven-defying level skill, Demon God Fist, successfully cultivated. Now that Yi Li had 3 god-level skills, this heaven-defying level skill was honestly not worthy of his attention. Then he opened the super treasure map. A set of coordinates appeared in his mind. Yi Li left Wild Thunder Base City after staying for a day. Yi Li walked towards the coordinates in his mind. After he saved Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo, the Silver Blizzard Palace must be looking for them everywhere. However, the Eastern Land was really too big, not to mention that Qing Zhu and Qing Ruo were now in the Cheongqi royal family. Silver Blizzard Palace could not find them no matter what. Yi Li arrived at a small village. The people in this village looked very simple and did not seem to be scheming. The village was not big. It was a small village with hundreds of people. When they saw strangers coming, they all became vigilant. Who are you? An old man asked Yi Li. The old man looked like he was about 70 years old and was very dry. I was just passing by, Yi Li said. When the coordinates of this super treasure map were in this village, it actually disappeared. Yi Li was afraid that this would happen. He didn't expect that it actually happened. It was ridiculous. Big brother, are you a genetic warrior? A 15 or 16-year-old girl said to Yi Li, her face full of curiosity. The villagers looked at Yi Li when they heard that. They all wanted to know if Yi Li was a genetic warrior because there was no genetic warrior in their village. Not to mention encountering the dark race. Even if they encountered zombies, they would be finished. That's right. I'm a genetic warrior, Yi Li replied. When the villagers heard this, they were all shocked. Why, you're really a genetic warrior? The old man asked Yi Li again. This old man was the village chief, Liu Tian. Senior, please save our village. As he spoke, the village chief, Liu Tian, knelt down in front of Yi Li. Immediately, hundreds of villagers also knelt down in front of Yi Li. Senior, we found that several villages have been slaughtered by zombies and they are about to reach us. The village chief, Liu Tian, said to Yi Li with a crying face. Get up. I'm not used to people kneeling and talking to me, Yi Li said slowly. Liu Tian and the villagers hurriedly stood up and looked at Yi Li pleadingly. Zombies? Yes, senior. I heard that there are many zombies, including mutant zombies and all kinds of master-level zombies. We don't know what kind of zombie they are, Liu Tian said to Yi Li. When Yi Li heard this, he couldn't help but reveal a playful smile. Sure, let's wait for these zombies to come, Yi Li said blandly. As soon as he finished speaking, he released the Apocalypse Legion from the system space, and the 9 powerful zombies instantly appeared behind Yi Li. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.